They help millions of people like you take control of their personal information online. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
The Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Don't act like you wouldn't love to see Baker Mayfield and Antonio Brown play on the same team. If you work in sports media, you should be praying that whatever team you cover, whatever city you live in, decides to bring Baker Mayfield and Antonio Brown together. I mean, that's a dream matchup right there. Maybe not for the on-the-field antics, but everything that goes on off the field with these cats, that's a sports media. That's sports media's dream right there. I mean, Baker, let's be honest. It was media in Cleveland. Stop trying to push Baker out. You need Baker. It's Cleveland. Let's be honest. How boring would Cleveland, if Case Keenum was your quarterback, how boring would that be? Let's be clear. Andy Dalton was boring as hell in Cincinnati. That's why after a while, it's like you're winning. It's like this guy's boring. He's a nice guy. He's so nice that we have nothing on him, so that's why we hate him, and that's why we're going to boo him at the celebrity softball All-Star game when the Reds were in town. It's unbelievable. Baker going at Mary Kay Cabot today. Antonio Brown, you said it right before we went on the air. He came with the receipts today.
Woo-wee. And put out his bank information.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, he showed another screenshot of a back and forth he had with a doctor or one of his handlers or people or whatever, and it said send it over to here, and it had his bank number and his routing number. And I thought to myself, like, ooh, I wish I was a scammer, because
you just need to scam him one time and you're set to retire.
I wouldn't even get crazy with it. It's $100K. It's $100K. It's $100K, man. He wouldn't know this.
He'll get you through a couple years.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome.
Couple months, maybe to July.
Justin Kenner, Kev Nash with you here today. How is everybody? Happy Thursday. Want to open up with this. Wasn't going to, but what the hell. Mary Kay Cabot put out an article about 19 hours ago, according to the Twitter stamp, saying that the Browns' Baker Mayfield, that Baker Mayfield must resolve his differences with Kevin Stefanski soon in case they need to coexist next season. Also, some names that will be on the radar if they don't. And look, this goes back to the boring debate of, man, should the Browns bring Baker Mayfield back? Yes, of course they should. We're living in the moment right now. And in the moment when teams lose, there's no such thing as a team that loses, that there's not discord or some kind of drama behind the scenes. If you are a professional athlete, you got to that level because you are uber competitive. If you work in professional sports, you got there because you're uber competitive. If you're an assistant coach, if you're the assistant to the assistant to the assistant, you're there because you're uber competitive. If you own an NFL team, you're uber competitive. If you're a GM, if you are anything to do with pro sports, you can't get to that level unless you have been competitive enough to get to that point, which means there is no such thing as losing quietly. There is no such thing as losing without drama. This is why I remember when Urban Meyer was hired with Jacksonville, Kev, I remember people saying, well, remember, it's going to be a project. They're not going to win right away. It's going to be, 2 years minimum of losing. So there's no such thing as losing quietly. Anyone that thought that Urban Meyer was going to lose in Jacksonville for 2 years and there not be drama and there not be some issues behind the scenes, like, I don't know what you're thinking. There is not an example out there of teams that lose that there's not some kind of drama behind the scenes, that there's not some kind of talk within those local markets of the coach needs to go, the play caller needs to go, the quarterback needs to go, the defensive coordinator needs to go. There's always somebody that needs to go. And then we sit back and say, oh, man, look, there's more drama there. And that's what's going on in Cleveland. Something popped up in my Facebook memories today. A year ago today, Kev, we had Brian Billick on. And we were chatting with Brian Billick about the Browns in the playoffs. A year ago at this time, because, again, they added an extra game this season, the Browns are preparing to take on your Pittsburgh Steelers in the opening round of the playoffs at Pittsburgh. Remember, no Kevin Stefanski? And I was listening to some of the interview, and it was just so funny talking about Baker Mayfield, that Baker has finally emerged. Baker's the star, that Cleveland finally has a foundation, and it's not just on the offensive side, it's on the defensive side, and they have a real coach in Kevin Stefanski, and how quickly things can change. Mm-hmm. So when you're winning, Kevin Stefanski is great. When you're winning, Baker Mayfield is great. When you're winning, the defense is great. And when you're winning, everything is great. But when you lose, it has to be somebody's fault. That's why I've always said I hate when people say, well, you just got to give them a few years because, there's going to be some losing at the beginning. No, because there's no way to lose quietly. When you lose, it's always somebody's fault. Have you ever sat back and look at Jacksonville? Well, they're not very good. Well, they don't have good players. You knew they weren't going to win, so why did you hold them? So when people bring up the Jacksonville Jaguars record against Urban Meyer, I'm like, but we knew he wasn't going to win.
Right.
So why are we bringing up Urban Meyer's win-loss record at Jacksonville as if, oh, man, I can't believe he didn't win. What did you expect him to do? Doesn't make any sense. So Cleveland, with all the injuries and COVID and everything that's happened throughout the season, not an excuse, it's an explanation. I don't really care about whether you think that the team just sucked or what the reasoning was. It doesn't matter. The point is that when losing occurs, it has to be somebody's fault. And people love drama. We love drama. I love drama. I don't know about you. I think you're more cool, calm, and collected than me, but I don't know if I know how to live in a drama-free world. Let's just put it that way. But Cleveland not making the playoffs this year. Cleveland, regardless of what happens on Sunday against the Bengals, they will finish under 500 this year. No matter what team you look at that is right now in the NFL that is battling, for their, in the final game this week, any team that's going to finish under 500, every one of those teams has chatter. Every one of those teams has noise. Every one of those teams is pointing either at their quarterback, is pointing at their head coach, pointing at their general manager, pointing at their play caller. The bottom line is there's always going to be drama. And there's drama in Cleveland this year. And no kidding, because they're losing. When you win, everything's hunky-dory. It's not when hell, to be fair, though, Baker only gets credit when they lose, because when they win, it's not because of Baker, it's because of the run game and the defense, right? Like, even though they had no defense last year, but somehow the defense got credit for the Browns winning last year. It's never Baker, but Baker is his own worst enemy. So Mary Kay Cabot puts out this report, and the headline itself of Mary Kay Cabot's tweet really wasn't that bad, but if you look inside, it says inside the article, and this is where these quotes started kind of spreading throughout the day on Twitter, was that Baker Mayfield, if he is not satisfied with the direction of the team this offseason, he could request a trade. That's where the CBS Sports article and stuff in the last couple of days, Kev, one that you had sent me yesterday, has started stating that here are some possible landing spots for Baker Mayfield, that him and his camp have insisted that he likes Washington or that he likes Houston. Mm-hmm. So Baker Mayfield retweets Mary Kay Cabot today, says, clickbait. You and many other Cleveland local media continue to be drama-stirring reporters with no sources or facts. Don't put words in my mouth so that you could put food on your table. I am not your puppet. Now, I find this interesting because, of course, there's one side of the table that says, oh, there's Baker again. He just can't let it go. He should not be tweeting this. He should not be going at her. Well, if you start looking at some of the responses, I think it was Brandon Weeden, which, by the way, that's not a great guy to have in your camp, but Brandon Weeden's a good dude, just a great quarterback. Brandon Weeden said, oh, she's still up to her old antics. So, there's a lot of players coming out and if you go look at some of the likes on Baker's post, a lot of former players. I haven't seen any current players, I will say that. A lot of former players or former athletes, whether it be for the Cavaliers, the Indians, or now Guardians, or now the Browns, they all know her antics. And I don't know her personally. She's been on the show in the past. I'm not going to pretend to know her. I'm not even going to talk bad about her. However, her reputation with the players isn't great. But to be fair, most reporters aren't always loved by the players, because the reporter's job is to stir things up. And let's be honest. If you think that she's constantly stirring things up in Cleveland, I think you got to ask yourself, well, why is she always stirring things up? It's not that she's stirring things up. It's that things are swirling around her. She just happens to be the stick that's in the middle. She's not stirring it. Cleveland is. Cleveland is one big drama-filled city. It's just how it is, because there's a lot of losing. Kev, I don't know where you're at with this as far as Baker. Is he in the right or wrong to call her out? I will say I have no problem with him calling her out, especially if it's not true. Because I get tired of the media thinking that they could post whatever they want and say whatever they want, and the athletes are supposed to just fall in line and deal with it because that's just how it is. No, right. I do believe reporters lie more times than not, and they hide behind my sources. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going on here, but I also know that if there was some validity to this, Baker would be quiet. But Baker's pissed because he's like, hold on, no, I'm getting enough heat. I'm getting blamed for the losses. I'm getting blamed for my performance. I'm getting blamed for why all this money that's been spent on this roster isn't working. I'm being blamed for enough. I don't need you putting stuff out that's not true about me demanding a trade because I don't like the direction of the franchise. I have no problem with him putting her in check when it comes to this. Where are you at with that?
This is exactly what we talked about yesterday. Me being born and raised in Cleveland, this happens all the time. Not only does the media have major sway in that city, the fan base has a major sway in that city. When the fans of the Cleveland Browns, the Cavaliers, the now Guardians start to speak up, the ownership, no matter who the owners are of the teams, whether it's the Dolans that are the owners of the Cleveland Guardians now, back to when Mr. Jacob owned the then Indians, when the fans were unhappy, they heard about it. They got rabbit ears. Every owner up there has rabbit ears, and they hear it. Now, do I believe that Mary Kay Cabot has sources? 100% I believe she has sources. Now, are they telling her the truth, or they're just speculation? Is it a conversation? Well, if I was Baker, this would what I would be doing if I was Baker. Or is it, yeah, according to what I'm hearing, Baker is saying this. So when reporters report stuff, I don't necessarily believe that they're just making it up out the clear blue sky. I believe they have dialogue going on with sources, people inside the building, people that are connected to said player. I don't think they just say, let me think of something to write about player X, Y, and Z one day. I truly do believe they're speaking to people that are connected to these athletes, and then they go and write things. And especially up in Cleveland, especially with the Cleveland Browns, it is a hot button no matter what goes on up in Cleveland, especially with the Browns. You write a story about the Browns, and especially the Browns in a season when they had high expectations, it's going to get those lovely clicks, and it's going to get those retweets, and it's going to get Mary Kay Cabot. She's going to be probably going to be on ESPN radio tomorrow morning with Max, Keyshawn, and Jay Will talking about her article. For sure. No doubt about it. Like, to explain her side of the story and everything like that. So these situations that go down between athletes and reporters, I'm glad that Baker is speaking up for herself, because you're right. Like, what are you to do? Like, in a perfect world, you know, I guess we would want the guy to sit back and just, man, I'm not going to pay no attention. But everybody's not built like that. Everybody's not built the same. Everybody's not going to just sit back and just let someone talk about them, especially if they don't believe it's true, or if it's not true to them. They're going to speak up and say something. But we talked about it yesterday about how, you know, when LeBron used to do interviews, he only did interviews with certain people that he trusted and stuff like that. So this is that same ilk. This is that same cloth. Like, he's not trustworthy about anything that's going on up in Cleveland right now. So if he did want to stay, why would he want to stay? Because he feels like everybody's against him. He obviously feels like part of the media is against him in Cleveland. Obviously, his play wasn't up to snuff this season. There's obviously something going on between him and coach. I don't think that's a stretch from what she was saying. I don't think there's a stretch from her saying that Baker must resolve differences between him and Kevin Stefanski. I think they both need to have a sit down on an exit interview meeting. I don't think that Baker Mayfield should be flying out to Texas to get the surgery without speaking to the coach and the GM and saying, all right, man, we need to hash this out and get on the same page before next season. I don't think that he should just go get his surgery and then show up for minicamp like, all right, where's the new playbook? Like, there's a conversation that definitely needs to be had. So I don't think that she's wrong on that side. But when you start putting out all these other scenarios and putting out all this other stuff that she's hearing from her sources, we got to remember that is part of her job. You know what I'm saying? So the clapback by Baker, I have no problem with. And to be perfectly honest, her dropping the report, I'm not bent out of shape about it either. But the clapback, you know, clickbait, shots out.
And I think reporters people think I'm always anti-player. I'm not always anti. I just have different opinions on different things. Just because if you're a pro player doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that a player does. And if you're anti-player, I don't believe you should be against everything that they do. I'm not just saying this because it's Baker, because let's be honest, Joe Burrow is one average to bad season away before, I'm not going to say media turns on him, but before the media turns the heat up on him. Right now, Joe Burrow is experiencing what Baker did last year, where everyone loves him. He's the new golden child, right? Like, everyone's buying into him now. And by the way, people should buy into Joe Burrow. I already said yesterday he's in my top 5 MVP vote. You know, as far as MVP is concerned, I'm not bashing Burrow. My point is the Browns are a prime example of why the Bengals fans need to sit back and enjoy this run even more, because you have no clue how. I mean, you do have a clue. I hope you would have a clue how quickly things can change. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Browns a year ago, I was like, man, look what we did in year one under Stefanski's system. You know, we didn't even have a camp with him last year. Imagine what we're going to do with a full off season and all these additions. And now look where they're at now. No one envisioned this. And that's the thing. So Bengals fans, enjoy this because you have no clue how quickly it can turn, and it can turn quickly, and it has turned pretty quickly. It went from Baker's the franchise quarterback. He proved last year he could do it, to now back to the same old Browns offseason topics. Well, who are they going to draft? And what are they going to do at quarterback? I feel like it's old times all over. The more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's exactly what's going on. 518-1410, 518-1410. Was Baker wrong for going at Mary Kay Cabot today? I think, again, you're right, Kev. In her report, when she said that they need to iron those issues out, Tim and Stefanski, well, that's a given. I think the part of the article that he's referencing, when don't put words in my mouth, when Baker's going to, demand change in the organization or force his way out and demand a trade, that's where I think he's, a little upset with it. I think as, over the top that Baker can be, I think Baker's smart enough to know he doesn't have leverage here. Who would Baker Mayfield be to go to Cleveland and say, hey, you guys need to make some change? The organization that gave him everything that he could possibly need to succeed. They gave him Freddie Kitchens at first, realized, okay, we shouldn't have done that. Goes to get Kevin Stefanski, an offensive-minded head coach. They got you OBJ. I know it didn't work, but they got him OBJ. They had Jarvis Landry. They got Nick Chubb. They made sure they extended Kareem Hunt. They made sure they got that offensive line buttoned up. They obviously have Myles Garrett, but they got Jadeveon Clowney on the defensive side, Johnson and Hill, and you drafted Newsome, and you already had Denzel Ward and Delpit and these guys. They've given him everything he needs to succeed, and he hasn't, and he knows that, and that's why I find this article a little interesting, that maybe she does have, and by the way, sometimes they do literally have sources, and those sources literally are feeding that information, but it doesn't mean that the information that's being fed to the reporter is accurate. And I think that's why you saw Baker respond, because let's be honest, I hate when Colin Cowherd and others, he's too weak mentally, look at him lashing out at media. Do you realize that media bashes this cat every day? Like, you know what I mean, Kev? Like, that's what I'm trying to say here. I know I'm a Browns homer, but at the end of the day, the main reason that I think I'm more on Baker's side on this than anything is because people talk crap about him every day. He's the most polarizing quarterback in the NFL. Outside of Big Ben, with him on the way out, Cam Newton's up there, where when you drop those quarterbacks' names, everyone has an instant reaction. Like, oh, God, I can't stand that guy. Oh, God, I hate him. Oh, God, I love that guy. Cam Newton, Big Ben, Baker Mayfield. I think those are the three most polarizing names in the NFL, and Big Ben's about to retire. Cam Newton, who knows what his future is. Baker's polarizing. There's not a whole lot of good things about him out there because his personality is not likable. So my point is, there's so many bad articles that come out every day about him, but this is the one he responded to. That's why I don't believe what's in that article about him.
I'm working on getting us the article because it is behind the paywall at cleveland.com. I'm working on getting us the full article so we can read it during the break and everything like that. But the reason why this is a big deal, especially in Cleveland, is because they had the number one pick and he had a great rookie year. And then last year happened and they got a playoff win. And now it's back to ground zero. Not only we can talk about the injuries, we can talk about COVID. Injuries happen. COVID, everybody's dealing with. Every team's dealing with it. You can brush that underneath the rug. The biggest issue, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, is it seems to be a rift between the QB and the coach. Not only is he the coach, but he's the offensive play caller. So if you got a rift between the QB and the play caller, who's the head coach, that is a bigger issue than everything. The injuries, he's going to get surgery. God willing, he'll be fine. COVID, sorry, I ain't got nothing for you there. We just all gonna have to deal with it. But the rift between the QB and the coach, I mean, listen to the press conferences they had, the post-game press conference.
The most recent one this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Like the isolation of the rookie guard. Remember he was talking about that?
That he brought that up. And did I want a different play call here or there? Yeah. And then you hear coach come with his press conference, said, there was plays to be made. We just didn't make them. He's not saying he's saying my quarterback didn't make them. Talking about when there's dudes wide open. So the rift between those two is far more important than him getting surgery or the team dealing with COVID. That needs to be mended. And that is why this is a big deal, because he was the overall number one pick. And then also you got to think, man, the GM that drafted him number one ain't with the Browns no more.
518-1410. By the way, Bengals fans, we're going to switch gears over to the Bengals are in the playoffs. I'm going to give the Bengals more attention here. I promise. It's just this story, this happening, I guess, broke about an hour ago. So that's why I opened up with it. But Jay Morrison covers the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic. He is going to join us coming up here in 6 minutes. So Jay Morrison with the Bengals covers the Bengals for The Athletic. We'll talk with him coming up as we'll look ahead to the final regular season game for the Bengals. Of course, not a whole lot happening there. Again, a lot of starters resting, but they prepare for the playoffs and who their potential playoff opponent could be. We'll talk about that with Jay Morrison coming up here in just about 6 minutes or so. But 518-1410, we only have a few moments, but Kev, who do we have?
We got Craig on line too.
Craig, how are you, my friend?
Hey, good. Hey, listen, guys. I know you're a Browns fan, and that's fine. But to compare Baker Mayfield with Joe Burrow, even Joe Burrow from last year, I mean, it's a different league, man. I mean, and we can try and say that Baker was good last year. Baker was okay, but Baker is not the number one pick. Good, and you got to agree with that.
I don't know what that has to do with anything, though. I don't know. What do you mean? Let me restart. Hold on, Greg. Hold on. I'm working on myself. I pop off at people. I'm working on myself. So let me restart this because new year, new me. I'm just trying some new things here. I'm confused as to what you took exception to when it comes to Burrow and Baker. I'm not comparing. I know Burrow's better. I know that the ceiling for Burrow can even get higher. I wasn't What are you talking about? What did I say that rubbed you the wrong way?
I'll explain here.
Fair.
I think you were saying that we got to be prepared for Joe Burrow. That Baker Mayfield had this fantastic year last year. You thought that it was just going to be sky's the limit this year for Baker Mayfield.
To be fair, I'll let you finish. My bad. Keep going.
And we got to be prepared for what could happen to Joe Burrow next year. I think Joe Burrow's mentality, I think his workup, I think the way that he approaches the game. He's not doing 1,000 commercials. He is all football. Baker Mayfield, I don't see that. And I mean, the intangibles that are coming with Joe Burrow versus Baker Mayfield. I mean, if you are trying to draft a quarterback, number one, what Joe Burrow is and what he does is what people pray for to get it out of a number one pick. I don't see that. I think, when the Brownies drafted Baker, I mean, I hated to say it, man. I mean, I thought he was great in college. Hell, he beat Ohio State. Good job. But I saw Johnny Manziel. Same. I mean, he's always popping off the mouth, and here he's doing it again with the media again. He cannot stay out of the limelight with the media. And the way to stay out of the media is do your job. And that's what Joe does. I mean, his approach to the game is different. It is Tom Brady-esque. It's Aaron Rodgers. He is all business. He's not out there doing, All
right, Craig. Let me jump in.
One commercial.
Craig, let me jump in. So,
yeah, man.
What about this scenario? Because we got to keep this in mind. As much as people and the media loved Peyton Manning, there was a time where people called him a regular season quarterback. So when you have expectations and when you do ball out like Joe Burrow has, you get that year of, oh man, he's up next. He's the next one. He's the guy that's going to take the NFL to the next level. They love that. The media loves that. They clamor onto that and they big it up. They use it. They sell it. They put you on Sunday Night Football. But at the drop of a dime, if you don't play up to snuff or your team doesn't win, no matter if you're scoring a ton of points and your defense is giving up a ton of points, you're just not winning games, they'll turn their back on you. We saw this with Peyton Manning. We see this with one of my favorite quarterbacks right now, Lamar Jackson. Like the question marks about Lamar Jackson. Oh, man, can he win in the playoffs? Like those questions are out there already for him. So for us, it's as simple as, hey, don't forget. Yes, enjoy this right now, but you got to capitalize on this opportunity because if you don't, the Wolves are going to be right at the door because they've been at better quarterbacks than Joe Burrow before. They've been at, like I said, they've been at Peyton Manning's neck before he won the Super Bowl. They called him a regular season quarterback, and all his stats during the regular season apparently just didn't matter anymore. So that's the point that we're trying to get across.
Yeah, and I understand. Obviously, winning in any sport is difficult. I mean, you can't. This might be the only time the Bengals make the playoffs for another, 10, 15
Yeah,
games.
and when you have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers balled into one as quarterback.
And if that happens, you think they're going to be screaming Joe Burrow's name from the mountaintop? No, they're going to be saying, well, Joe Burrow can't get it done. Joe Burrow and the Bengals can't get it done. Same way they said about Andy Dalton. Like, it's a build you up to break you down situation. They love you when you're new and shiny, but if you don't win it all or handle your business like you're supposed to, then they're on to the next, and they're questioning if you have it, whatever the it is.
Well, but I think even with Peyton Manning, if we're going to in regards to a Peyton Manning was, as far as preparation, I mean, his rookie season. Let's not say anybody was anointing Peyton Manning, top of the heap. I mean, he didn't. I mean, I don't have the stats on me, but how many picks did he throw in his rookie year? I mean, it was outrageous. Yeah, it was outrageous. But he attacked the game differently. And that's, I guess, my primary point here. Baker's attack to the game. I don't think Baker attacks the game the way Joe Burrow attacks the game. I don't. I mean, there was a couple of comments on ESPN made that Joe Burrow is a put your foot on the throat and kill you. I mean, go ask the Baltimore Ravens when he threw for 500.
Go ask the Packers.
He is. What? I'm sorry?
I did nothing. I'm working on myself. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. He's I mean, he was that way in LSU too. I mean, every game LSU was a blowout the year he won the Heisman. He is an Aaron Rodgers type, cut of the clay here, man. I mean, I don't see the preparation from Baker just looks confused, man. And because I'm a Bengals fan, honestly, I've been all over the world, and I've cheered for a ton of teams all over the country for my work. I just happen to live in Centerville now, and that's the local team. But Joe Burrow is legitimate, and I see Johnny Manziel out of Baker Mayfield, man. He can't keep his hand out of.
We got Jay Morrison coming up, man. I appreciate the call, Craig. Baker's better than Johnny Manziel. You can compare the personalities all you want, but I think any Browns fan will take Baker over Manziel any day of the week. And
I don't think you can compare their personalities. One was a drug addict and one isn't.
Wow, damn.
I'm just saying, it is.
That was Kidder-esque. I mean, my God, Kev. I mean, geez.
It's true. It was on drugs.
But wow.
What?
So, can I be old me for a second, please? It's backing up. Like that guy. He kept coming at me, and I'm just like, I didn't say last year that Baker was on the way to being the best quarterback in the NFL. I was talking about the Browns. When I said Bengals fans, enjoyed it, I wouldn't even say anything wrong. I was saying Bengals fans enjoyed this because a year ago at this time, we had Brian Billick. I shared earlier on this day, a year ago, we had Brian Billick on the show. We were talking about the Browns going into the playoffs, and a couple comments in the interview with Brian Billick. Brian Billick was saying just how different this Cleveland team is, that Baker's the real deal, that the offensive line and the run game, and you have, Kevin Stefanski, just provided stability there, and that all the Browns have needed is stability, and they finally have the quarterback to get the job done. And guess what? They won that weekend, beating Pittsburgh on the road. So my point was a year ago at this time, everyone was talking about, man, sky's the limit for Cleveland. Imagine what another year under Stefanski's system is going to be, not just Baker, but the entire team. And then I said, fast forward to this time of the year now, looking back, it's like, holy smokes, I can't believe where we're at right now compared to where we were a year ago. That was my point. But see, people blame me and say that I have a habit of always turning it into Browns versus Bengals. No, you guys have that habit. You guys do it. That last caller did it. I have no clue. I mean, that Baker looks confused. Baker's injured, and Baker is not Joe Burrow. I agree, but Joe Burrow's also not Aaron Rodgers, and he's not Tom Brady or anyone else you said he is. He's top 5 in my MVP list right now, and he deserves it to be. But let's be clear. The one thing that Joe Burrow has always had at LSU, he had Justin Jefferson. Okay. He had Justin Jefferson. He had Jamar Chase. I mean, how many NFL guys did he have around him at LSU? It's easy to blow teams. You bring it up the blowouts. Well, it's easy to blow out teams when you have so many weapons around you. And I'll give the Bengals this. They have talent all over. One thing about it's not like Baker Mayfield has Jamar Chase and, it's not like he has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. He doesn't have anyone in that receiving core outside of Jarvis Landry. I mean, everyone knows as good as Jarvis is, and I love Jarvis. Kev, you've even said he's not a number one. Baker hasn't had a number one wide receiver since he's been in Cleveland. It was supposed to be OBJ, and as we're finding out, everyone that likes to take shots about the OBJ thing, let's be clear. OBJ going to the Rams and having success, the only number that's better than when he was in Cleveland is the touchdowns. And you know why those touchdowns are going up? His numbers are the exact same in Cleveland as they are in LA right now. The difference is he was the number one wide receiver in Cleveland, and he's the number 2 or 3 in LA right now. And no one's paying attention to OBJ because they're paying attention to Kupp and some of their other weapons. Everyone was putting attention on OBJ when he was in Cleveland. That's the difference. So, no, he has not had the same amount of weapons as Burrow has in the pass game. But damn it, that offensive line and that run game, and Baker has still made Higgins somebody. He still did a lot last year. Anyways, I'll get off of that. But that caller, he had me. He tested me, Kev.
Hollywood Higgins did not have a good season either. He was. We talk about like, oh man, Baker and him have a connection. That connection wasn't there this year. And I was talking to one of my good buddies who's a Browns fan, and I asked him like, yo, do you want Austin Hooper back? I know he was brought there because, he's a good blocker and all that type of stuff. But if this dude dropped one more pass, bruh, like I'm just watching him like, dude's just like stone hands, yo. And like I saw him when he was with the Falcons playing with Matt Ryan. I had him on my fantasy league a couple of times, and he did me good in fantasy. I mean, I know fantasy isn't real football, but man, he was just MIA. And when you watch the games, stone hands, yo, stone hands.
How'd I do?
Solid.
It was about to.
You was about to go there.
That last caller, and Craig, by the way, I have no problem with that last caller, Craig. I love that he called it. I need more of Craig's. I need Craig's in my life that are going to test me because I can't, how am I supposed to? For instance, we have 2 terrible dogs. I love my dogs more than anything, okay? So we got these shot collars. Now, I don't like using the actual zap part, but there is the beep and then there's the vibrate part that kind of gets their attention. So we got these collars, but the dogs are only bad when people come over. When it's just Nora and I, the dogs are awesome. They lie in our lap. They don't, they're not bad. So I'm like, well, we can't train them with this collar unless people are over because that's the only time that they act bad. So that's kind of I'm here. It's just you and I talking. I'm fine, but like I need people to come over. I need Craig's to put me in position so I can learn. And that's the thing. I've invited friends over. I was like, hey, I need you to come over, not for anything in particular, but we just want to test out this old collar on the dog. We need to train them not to jump on people when they come over. Dog. So that's kind of where I'm at here. I need the Craigs of the world to call in to test me, and I passed that one, right? Almost failed. I gave it a B.
We need Charlie to call in.
The difference is sometimes I know Charlie doesn't actually believe everything that he says. I know he's just trying to get a rise out of me. That last caller truly believed that. That's the problem I had. I was like, oh my God, that's adorable. But anyways, hey, let's talk some more Bengals with someone who can actually provide you positive Bengals talk that's not forced and, really a risk to my health. Jay Morrison covers the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic. He joins us next.
The Justin Kenner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
These are tough times, but it's even worse if you're stuck paying endless fees for a timeshare you were misled into buying.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. And now, more than ever, taking care of our physical and financial health has never been more important. If you were told that timeshare was a great investment or your maintenance fees will never go up, you need my help. In 2020, a lot of things have changed. One thing hasn't. Our commitment to helping good folks just like you cancel your timeshare permanently. We've helped over 13,000 families completely eliminate their timeshare debt, saving them an average of $65,000 in lifetime timeshare payments. So call my office today. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley Financial Group now for your free information kit. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252.
34 teams, 19 games, all in 4 days, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. It's the 2022 Premier Health Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, January 14th through the 17th. Don't miss out on a chance to see some of the best local and national teams and players. Huntington Prep, Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's, Wayne, Dunbar, Centerville, and more. It's the 2022 Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. Get your tickets at flyingtothehoop.com/tickets.
Cordell Transportation is now hiring Class A CDL drivers. $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily dedicated lanes, no touch freight. Apply today at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Need more hires in the new year? Check out Indeed. With Instant Match, you'll receive a list of quality candidates when you sponsor a job. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Don't go through another year with that awful joint pain. Now there's an exciting new treatment available here using natural biologics, regenerative solutions that can restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints. Hey, it's Keith Byers. I'm talking about QC Kinetics, now open here. QC Kinetics is a nation leader in non-surgical regeneration, highly concentrated natural biologics that can give you lasting relief. If you have pain in your knees, back, shoulders, hips, and you're tired of steroids, pain meds, and talk of major surgery, this is a treatment you've been hoping for. Call the medical professionals at QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. Learn about how natural biologics can be used to get you moving again, pain-free. Get a free second opinion at QC Kinetics. Do it now. And imagine life in 2022 without pain. Call QC Kinetics now, 937-936-0325. That number again is 937-936-0325.
At Menards, we have everything you need to create the bathroom of your dreams. Sterling products provide a combination of style and comfort to make your bathroom come to life. These showers and tubs have a durable, high-gloss finish that provides a smooth, shiny surface that's easy to clean. Transform your bathroom today and save big on Sterling showers and bathtubs now at Menards. Savings good through January 15th.
Save big money at Menards.
Deep breaths.
Mi's virtual meditation studio has never been busier.
Imagine not working.
They need a remote assistant to realign their scheduling.
Blank calendar. Sorry, back to your breath.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Make calls, schedule virtual interviews, and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
There are many ways to catch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. You can catch it live right here on 1410 Wing AM, or you can stream the show at wingam.com. But now we have another way that you can take in the show. You can now watch the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live on ESPN Dayton's Facebook page. Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kevin Nash hanging out with you here on a Thursday. If you're looking to buy or sell your home, give Brad Mays a call today. Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, 937-572-7425. Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, again, sponsor of the show, as well as Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. But again, Brad Mays, in fact, we just wrapped up the purchase of our first home, my fiance and I, and Brad was a part of it from the very beginning, so we appreciate all his help. I promise you he will give you that same attention that he gave us, and he'll make sure you get the house that you've been looking for all along, or help you sell that dang thing that you live in now that you're wanting to upgrade. So give Brad a call one more time, 937-572-7425. In fact, Brad was watching the show a little bit ago, Kev, making sure that I'm giving his business that plug, of course. But he noticed he noticed I was having to be on my best behavior earlier. He says, ha, 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 Kinner's face with that last caller. You know, people are trying to tempt me today. I said, new year, new me. I was I know we have a ton of Bengals fans in this area, and I know we've not had the best relationship, but my goal was to make sure that the journey into the playoffs is going to be an enjoyable one. I'm not here to water what the accomplishment down. I know it's led to some conversations that have got me into some back and forth with some people, but that's not my goal. But nonetheless, Mark Smith on Facebook says, Kenner, your facial expression isn't exactly the new year, new you. And of course, he put the blood pressure pills in the chat. So there's that. You've really put that over. Tim Joyce on Facebook says, put this guy out of his misery, Justin. I did not. I did contain myself. I was calm. I remained calm.
Cool and collective.
It's just what everyone knows I am. Doug Toby says, okay, then, what organization? Oh, geez, here we go. Why can't you guys just accept that I'm praising the Bengals without having to do this comparison to the Browns thing? Like, see, they start it too, Kev. Okay, then what? This is from Doug Toby. What organization has done a better job of signing, drafting, and getting free agents and building team chemistry? See, he had to add the last one because that's the only thing that the Bengals have done a better job than the Browns, as far as I'm concerned. The Bengals have actually done a better job drafting than I gave him credit for. And we'll get to that in a moment. But, what the Browns have signed great free agents. I mean, what do you want me to say? The Browns have drafted excellent. In fact, I think they've done a better job in the draft collectively going on 3 years now than the Bengals have, who finally been able to string together a couple. But both are doing pretty dang good. Why does it have to be pitting one against the other? Me, that's why. All right. We'll get back to your calls coming up here in just a moment. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. And, of course, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Excited to bring on our next guest. He covers the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic, Jay Morrison. Jay, it's been a while, and by a while, July. But glad to have you on here today in January.
I thought either you just hated the Bengals so much you weren't talking about them, or you found another Bengals beat writer to have on your show.
No, I was going to text you earlier, too. I haven't had James Rapine on in a while either, so I'm going to make my Bengals media rounds coming up here in the coming weeks. And as you texted me earlier, it's kind of hard to ignore them now. They're in the playoffs. You can make a lot of scrambled eggs with all the eggs that have been on my face over the last couple of weeks, Jay. I tell you that much.
I mean, I did not see this coming. I wasn't hating on them. That's not my job. But I predicted 7-10, and I thought if everything went right for them, they could maybe get up to 9 and have a winning record. But, geez, 10 with a chance to win 11, I think they've surprised a lot of people.
Collectively, I know there's so many contributions that have allowed this team to improve to where they're at right now as AFC North champs, double-digit wins. They're going to have a home playoff game, all that coming up. But, I mean, is it Jamar Chase? If you could only put it on one name that was added this past – who is it Jamar Chase? Was that the missing piece right there, or was it some pieces on the defensive end? Who's the most important addition this past offseason that's mostly responsible for this right now?
Yeah, Jamar Chase is the most important, but he's not the sole reason. I mean, what they did in free agency and getting Trey Hendrickson and swapping him out for Carl Lawson was huge. That pass rush they've had this year has had a big impact on how this defense has improved. And then you've got the underrated guys, the Larry Ogunjobi from Cleveland, Chidobe Awuzie from Dallas. These kind of Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh. These lesser kind of smart, safe free agent contracts have really paid big dividends. And it's not a top 10 defense, but that's what we said all offseason. They just have to be average. With the potential of this offense to be a top 10 offense, which it is now, you play average defense and you got a chance.
You look at the AFC right now. I know they just beat the Chiefs this past weekend, and right away, everyone knows the best offense in the AFC. It's obviously the Chiefs. The second best offense in the AFC is who? I've gone on record saying I think it's Cincinnati, and I don't really think that's a hot take, but I'm curious how far off am I compared to your opinion on that? When you look at Tyler Boyd, you look at T. Higgins, you look at Jamar Chase, you look at Joe Mixon. I mean, that offense just went in a shootout head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes and the best offense in the eyes of most in the AFC, and they won. I'm going to go Kansas City 1 and Cincinnati 2 as far as the two most explosive offenses in the AFC. Where do you have them?
Yeah, I would put them maybe a 1A, right there with Kansas City. I think the Bengals are better at running back, but the Chiefs are better at tight end with Kelsey. And, maybe the Bengals wide receiver core is better than Kansas City's, but as great as Burrow's been, you still can't put him ahead of Mahomes. I think Mahomes is the big difference there that kind of gives Kansas City that edge. But the thing about the Bengals offense, and we've seen it now, this 3 straight games without a turnover. The franchise record is 4 straight games without a turnover. That's how rare this is. And if you do that, if you have the explosive nature that they do, and you can keep Joe Burrow from not getting sacked and fumbling the ball or not getting hit and throwing away interceptions, it's really kind of a sky's the limit type of thing for this offense. And Burrow's gone 4 straight games without throwing an interception. That ties his career high. That's the key. Get this team into the postseason. Don't turn the ball over. You have to feel they've got a shot to play with anybody.
Jumping back to the AFC North, they blew out the Pittsburgh Steelers twice. They blew out the Baltimore Ravens twice. I'm a big proponent in confidence. How confident is this team heading into the playoffs?
Oh, supremely. I mean, you look at not just beating Baltimore the second time because that was a makeshift defense, but beating Kansas City. They hadn't won 3 in a row since 2015. So you go out and you do that, and you win your 3rd in a row, and you do it against arguably the best team in the division or in the conference, and you're on this roll. And really, I don't know if what happens Sunday will affect that at all, because they know they're not playing their starters. This team they've been confident since maybe they shouldn't have been. Back in OTAs and in training camp, they kind of saw what they had, and they've got these guys. Everybody knows what Joe Burrow is, and you got Mixon and Jamar Chase and just these confident, brash, young, cocky guys. And we said that early on. If they start fast, it could really snowball. You could really see them kind of have that light switch kick on. And I think that happened in the first Baltimore game when they blew the Ravens out in Baltimore to go 5-2. And Joe Burrow said it on the sideline in that game. He said, if we can win the division, we can do anything. We can go to the Super Bowl. And they still have that thought process right now.
So next week, the playoff game, how crazy is Paul Brown Stadium going to be? I know we got a glorified bye week this week with the last week game versus the Browns, but up here, everybody's already amped for the playoffs. How crazy is that stadium going to be next weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be big time. I don't know that Baltimore game. I don't know if there was some free tickets given away or if a bunch of people bought tickets for Christmas presents. I was surprised by how full the stadium was for that game. I wasn't surprised at all for Kansas City. That was such a huge game. It's such an attraction to see the opposing team. That place was lit, and it's only going to ramp up from there for a playoff game. The other key thing, and Jesse Bates mentioned this on his Zoom on Monday, how you shouldn't have to thank the fans for not booing you, but he did because they fell in that 14-0 hole, and it looked like, they're going to get run out of the stadium. And he talked about how they've been booed in the past from slow starts, and the fans didn't do that. They kind of stuck with them. Jamar Chase has that long touchdown. It kind of flips everything. And, yeah, I think it's going to be quite the atmosphere, especially – I'm predicting if it's Bengals Chargers, if it's Burrow Herbert, that's going to be the Monday night game on Wild Card Weekend. And if it's the Patriots, which I think that's going to be the matchup, they love putting the Patriots when they play opening weekend in that Saturday night primetime spot. So I think they're going to be excited no matter what time of the game is. But if it's a primetime game and people have all day to get liquored up, it's going to be quite the scene.
Going back to that game versus Kansas City, what was the vibe in the stadium as they're in scoring position, but they're trying to make sure Patrick Mahomes doesn't get the ball back? And it ended kind of wonky, but it ended in their favor. What was the vibe in the stadium like?
Well, I have to go full disclosure here. I was not at the game Sunday. I tested positive on Friday, and I'm fine. I had no symptoms or anything, but I was not, because of that, I was not allowed to go to the game, so I had to cover it from home. But yeah, from talking to people, and you know that it was electric, and it just felt like from watching it on TV, you could even feel it. It was just a different vibe, and there was a little bit. It seemed like there was a little bit of murmuring when it was 14-0, and people were ready to bail. But Jamar Chase didn't let that happen.
Yeah, glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, I never felt bad. I shouldn't have taken the test, is what I should have.
We got Jay Morrison with us here, covers the Bengals for The Athletic. Of course, the Bengals just wrapped up winning the division last week with their huge win over Kansas City. And, of course, there was a lot of, possibilities as far as potentially setting up a Browns-Bengals matchup in Week 17 here for the division. But all the excitement of that was kind of sucked out with some of the scenarios that played out last week. But it actually ended up being a good thing. Look, and Bengals fans get mad at me when I say this, Jay, and this is the truth for every team. Luck plays a role in every team that gets to the playoffs. I mean, whether it's injuries, whether it's the timing of which you face a good or a bad opponent. I mean, luck plays a huge role in that. Even this week, it's a glorified bye week, as Kev called it. But Finn's saying, man, the Bengals, their time of having a COVID outbreak, it's coming, and it just so happens to come this week. They've avoided major injuries all year. They've avoided the COVID outbreaks all year. And then they get to the final week of the regular season where they're resting all their starters anyways after clinching the division last week. Now the outbreak is occurring. Is there any concern that this outbreak can spread into next week, which could potentially have an impact on that first playoff game?
No, none whatsoever. See, what they're doing, that they changed the protocols, and they test about 5 or 6 random in quotes, guys on Monday.
Joe Burrow's not on that random list. Let's just be
What's that?
So Joe Burrow's not on that random list. Let's just be clear.
Right. None of the starters are. They're not testing big name guys because they don't want that. The only way these bigger, the guys that we're seeing on the Joe Mixons and Ogunjobi today, the only way they go on the COVID list is if they self-report symptoms. Well, why wouldn't you self-report symptoms this week? Because if you test and you're positive, you're fine for playoff week, and you don't have to test or worry about anything for 90 days. The season will be over. And I don't care what Joe Burrow's symptoms are. He's not self-reporting anything. So I don't think there's any concern at all about COVID once they get into next week.
Zach Taylor, the perception of him, 2 weeks ago or 3 against that Niners team, every fan was out there calling for his job, and now everyone's clamoring for him to be coach of the year. Look, the guy's done an amazing job. 6 games in 2 years, and everyone was ready to turn on him. Everyone thought this would potentially be his last year if things didn't go well. They've gone more than well. What's the perception of Zach Taylor within the franchise right now? And obviously his job's safe, not even close to being in question, but was it in question at any point throughout this season, mainly that Niners game from a few weeks ago?
No, I don't think it was. And Mike Brown's always been that patient, we'll wait till the season's over and look at the body of work type of owner. And it was going to be progress this year. And so you knew they were 5-2. They had already at week 7, they had already surpassed last year's win total. So you knew there was going to be progress. You knew there was going to be growth. It was the first full year with Burrow since he had the injury last year. Then it was cut short. I don't think he was ever in trouble, but that 49ers game was really kind of the turning point. Zach talked about losing sleep when he kind of took the ball out of Burrow's hands in overtime, and they tried to run it a couple of times, ended up kicking the field goal, and then they lose when the 49ers get the touchdown. It's like after that game, they said, screw it. We're going to win with Joe Burrow. We're going to put our fortunes in his hands, and they come out. And I thought they'd be conservative against the Ravens with them not having any defensive players and starting Josh Johnson, and they threw it all over the place. I thought they might try to run the ball against the Chiefs and try to shorten the game against Patrick Mahomes, and they said, nope, we're going to let Joe Burrow try to outduel Patrick Mahomes. And it's just I think that's what we're going to see the rest of the way, and I think Zach deserves credit for that, not being a my way or the highway type of coach, kind of learning on the fly, figuring out what works best and going with it.
We talked earlier, before we let you go, Jay, about, the significance of the 3 straight games without an intercept or without a turnover. Joe Burrow at one point was leading the league in interceptions. I was defending Zach Taylor throughout a certain stretch from people get mad at some of the conservative play calling at times, but keep in mind when you have a young quarterback like Joe Burrow, who every time that ball leaves his hand, something really, really good is going to happen or something really, really bad is going to happen. Did that play a role in some of that tight play calling where he knew, he was having that turnover issue, and obviously he's fixed that, and we've seen what kind of difference that makes. But did that play a role in some of that play calling where he just wasn't sure where Joe Burrow was at when it came to those turnover issues?
He said no, but I think it had to be in the back of his mind because we've seen Joe do that. There have been a couple what the heck was he thinking interceptions, and there have been some interceptions that bounced off receivers' hands and that weren't really Joe's fault. But there have been some. There was one in the Baltimore game. There was one in the Jets game where they were down in the red zone ready to score, and he threw interceptions. So I think that had to have been in the back of his mind. And maybe not just Burrow throwing an interception, but maybe a ball bouncing off of Chase's hands. And who knows what all went into the decision, but he did it. It cost him the game because Burrow was on fire that entire fourth quarter and the start of overtime. And to take the ball out of his hands, they would be in much better shape to get a number one seed if they win that game, as opposed to losing it in overtime now. And they're a game back of Kansas City.
All right, Jay Morrison covers the Cincinnati Bengals for The Athletic. Give him a follow on Twitter at JMorrisonATH. Give him a follow now. Jay, thanks so much. I promise you we won't talk to you until July. I'm sorry, we won't wait till July to talk to you next. We'll talk soon.
You give me a call anytime.
All right, take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Jay Morrison again, covers the Cincinnati Bengals. Appreciate him taking time and hanging out with us here this afternoon. Again, the Cincinnati Bengals, you heard it there, of course. You know, the Patriots. It could be the Patriots or it could be the Chargers. Which matchup are you a big fan of in that case, Kev?
Chargers. We'll love to see that matchup again. And hopefully it's not so many turnovers from the Cincinnati Bengals. I know they're hoping that. But, you know, my best friend is a Raiders fan, so I'm inclined to root for the Raiders, so my best friend is happy.
I think we want to see Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. Obviously, that would be a fun matchup. But, I mean, man, you want to talk about a confidence opportunity? I think you have confidence no matter who you beat in the playoffs. But, man, imagine your very first playoff game is against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots.
Ooh, at least it's at home.
So that would be one of the few advantages that they would have as far as that is concerned. But good stuff with Jay Morrison. If you missed it, we'll have that interview for you later coming up at the show. We're going to continue talking more NFL later on as well. At 4:30, we'll be joined by Brent Sobleski, covers the NFL analyst for Bleacher Report. He's the one. I brought him on purposely because I'm tired of eating the crow by myself. Brent, in the offseason, graded the draft and gave the Cincinnati Bengals an F. And it's hard to argue that without McPherson winning the games he has this year and the fantastic job they got ripped for taking a wide receiver at number 5 when everyone thought they should have taken, well, I shouldn't say everyone, but the haters thought they should have taken offensive line instead of Jamar Chase, and then mocked them when they took the kicker, McPherson. So Brent Sobleski gave him an F, and he got ripped for it. Now his name is back in the headlines, of course, being called out by Bengals fans because the Bengals are going on this little weird petty revenge tour where they're just reminding everybody, hey, you were wrong. Well, I'm tired of eating it by myself, so he's going to come on and eat it with us. So there you go. We'll be back in a moment. 518-1410. Give us a call. Curious people's thoughts. People still coming at me about this Bengals and Browns thing. This is about the Bengals. I'm trying to make this about you guys. Relax. There's no hate here, I promise. So we'll be back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton. Dayton's ESPN Radio.
Looking to save money this year? Look at Allstate. You can get the protection you need at the low rates you want. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Get help managing your money for the life and years ahead. With Fidelity Income Planning, we'll look at what you've saved, what you'll need, and build a straightforward plan to generate income, even when you're not working. A plan that gives you the chance to grow your savings and create cash flow that lasts. Plus, you can start, stop, or adjust your plan at any time without the unnecessary fees. Talk to us today so we can help you go from saving to living. Fidelity Brokerage Services, member NYSE SIPC.
34 teams, 19 games, all in 4 days, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. It's the 2022 Premier Health Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, January 14th through the 17th. Don't miss out on a chance to see some of the best local and national teams and players. Huntington Prep, Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's, Wayne, Dunbar, Centerville, and more. It's the 2022 Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, live from Trent Arena in Kettering. Get your tickets at flyingtothehoop.com/tickets.
At the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, we help veterans and their dependents navigate the process of applying for benefits administered by the VA. We can assist with VA claims, pensions, and a variety of benefits, including emergency financial assistance, transportation, and legal services. If you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, a wide range of services may be available to you, always at no cost to the veteran. We are honored and proud to serve all Miami Valley veterans. Contact us today at 937-225-4801.
I need to be able to work from anywhere, so I need to have supplies, well, everywhere.
It's possible at Staples.
I need the same setup for my home as I have at the office, without twice the cost.
Also possible, because your local Staples store has the tools your business needs to get work done. Now get 40% back in a Staples store bonus when you buy any 2 ink or toner cartridges. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 1/15, limit 2 in-store only. See staplesconnect.com/store bonus for details.
Get your biggest refund guaranteed. Jackson Hewitt Tax Pros will help find thousands worth of new tax credits so you get every dollar you deserve. Learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy and cold with snow showers, a high near 24. Tonight will be mostly cloudy and very cold, a low around 10. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy and cold, a high near 23. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Need more hires in the new year? Check out Indeed. With Instant Match, you'll receive a list of quality candidates when you sponsor a job. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
These are tough times, but it's even worse if you're stuck paying endless fees for a timeshare you were misled into buying.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. And now, more than ever, taking care of our physical and financial health has never been more important. If you were told that timeshare was a great investment or your maintenance fees will never go up, you need my help. In 2020, a lot of things have changed. One thing hasn't. Our commitment to helping good folks just like you cancel your timeshare permanently. We've helped over 13,000 families completely eliminate their timeshare debt, saving them an average of $65,000 in lifetime timeshare payments. So call my office today. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call Wesley Financial Group now for your free information kit. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252. 800-626-5252.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with the Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job
Family to the max. It can all mean pain to the max. So BC introduces new BC Max Strength. New BC Max relieves tough headaches and body pain at the speed of powder. Nothing stronger on pain without a prescription. Pain to the max? New BC Max. In a great tasting lemonade flavor.
I know you've been waiting a little bit longer than normal.
Jen's manicure spot needs an extra pair of hands.
Who's at the front desk right now?
Someone who's handy with everything from nail files to spreadsheet files.
Deidre's not coming in today, but we have that whole bachelorette party.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you need to hire? Then you need Indeed. Indeed has 135 assessments to help you find the right candidates fast. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Big thanks to Jay Morrison, covers the Bengals for The Athletic. If you missed the interview, don't worry. We'll have it back up coming up for you here around the corner in hour number 3. Cincinnati Bengals resting a lot of their starters, some out for COVID reasons. And it's interesting hearing how the teams are kind of finding loopholes in the COVID testing format, Kev. I mean, basically you have players who are just reporting symptoms. So I'm not putting words in Jay's mouth, but sounded like he said some Bengals players are just reporting COVID symptoms to go into COVID protocol for the week so that they can come back next week and then they won't be tested for the next 90 days and they don't have to worry about it for the playoffs.
No, you report symptoms and you get tested.
But to get it out of the way.
Yeah, so you're trying to roll the dice. Hopefully I come up positive, so I'm out.
My gosh. And what world are we living in that you're hoping for a positive test? But I mean, I get it. Like, get out of the way.
Yeah, that sounds like what the plan is. A lot of teams across the league, is like I said, it's a war of attrition, man. It isn't always who's the best team all season long. We had this conversation a billion times about who's hot going into the playoffs. With the New York Giants were hot going into the playoffs twice. The Pittsburgh Steelers were hot going to the playoffs when they beat the Seahawks that one time. Like, who's hot going into the playoffs? And now who's hot going into the playoffs? Who's the healthiest? Who doesn't have COVID? Who got COVID
Cincinnati
at the right time? You know what I'm saying? Like, Kansas City was hot until they weren't. You know what I'm saying? Until they just said, offensive line, everybody's hurt. Now you go play the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is, and Bengals fans, you can get mad at me all you want. This isn't a shot. If reality upsets and hurts your feelings, that's on you. That ain't on me. The Bengals, and we had Jason Fitz on yesterday. I said, look, the Bengals are not the best team in the AFC North. They're the healthiest team in the AFC North. And that's the reality of it. And it's fine. That's that's how it normally works anyways, Kev. Like that really is what it comes down. The Pittsburgh Steelers last year were 11-0. And then injuries just started caving in. And then just, outside noise started caving. You're the best until you're not. And you're the worst till you're not. I mean, the Bengals were the worst team last year. Now they're not. It's just how it is. I don't know why everyone has to get so butthurt about reality. And the reality is the Bengals are the healthy. You cannot tell me that luck plays a role with every team's path to the playoff. You have to have luck to not have injuries in a contact sport. You know how much luck you have to have the quarterback that had his leg almost amputated. I'm being dramatic. Almost amputated last year after that injury. Being dramatic. Come back. The team ignore the offensive line. He's still the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, and yet hasn't missed a game all year. And is missing the game this week because they don't have to play. I guarantee you, if they were playing the Browns for the division, he's playing. So that news yesterday about, his knee is why he's out this week, that's all BS. So the point is that's luck. Your quarterback was sacked 50-plus times, 51, the most of anyone else in the NFL. That's luck that he is not injured and out right now or didn't miss any games to where you lost games because of his absence early in the year. That's the reality of it. That's not a shot. That is just the reality of it. Let's talk about how every other team in the NFL and the AFC North had COVID outbreaks that had a impact on the results of big games throughout the year. Baltimore multiple times, injuries for Baltimore since preseason. Cleveland's been banged up all year, and I know that the numbers. Someone tweeted me today about that the Browns are actually the 12th most injured team this year. I said, yeah, that's based on the total amount, but I don't care about it's quality versus quantity. And it's the quality of the injuries versus the quantity of the injuries that have impacted the Browns more so than anybody else this season. So while the Bengals have been healthy all year, while the Bengals have avoided COVID all year, while everyone else has experienced injuries in COVID all year, that's luck, and that's not a bad thing. You need luck. I'm jealous that you have luck. I would kill for luck, and I would kill for Andrew Luck at this point, to be quite honest with you. But you know what I mean? Like, it's okay. Like, I don't know why. I mean, again,
it happens in the NCAA tournament all the time. Like,
the best team never wins the national championship in college basketball.
Yeah, you roll the ball out there and you play the same bracket the next weekend. It won't roll out the exact same way. Like, upsets happen in the NCAA bracket, and then that allows another team to advance. Like, I remember one year that Florida Gulf Coast, they beat Michigan State. They were obviously Michigan State was heavily favored. And the team that I follow, Syracuse, they were expecting to play Michigan State in the next round. No, they played Florida Gulf Coast. They blew Florida Gulf Coast out. They made a run to the Final Four. Like, breaks happen. Like, that's just what it is. That's sports. That is sports. And now that we have this extra thing called COVID-19 in the mix, I think people are still getting used to it and still trying to understand it and try to figure out how do we rationalize this, because we can all rationalize injuries and everything like that, because we all know that's a part of the game. Like, all right, man, it's a part of the game. It sucks. Let's keep moving. But then now we have this extra COVID-19 protocols and virus and everything like that. People are just angry, and rightfully so, when one of their star players tests positive. Like my team, like Joe Hayden tests positive, Deontay Johnson tests positive. They're both out this week, and they need to win this week versus the Ravens to even have a chance to make the playoffs. They need to win, and they need Jacksonville to jump up and bite the Colts. Well, you know what? Their chances to beat the Baltimore Ravens just took a nosedive without Joe Hayden and Deontay Johnson.
518-1410, 518-1410. And the only reason I brought that up was not to stir it up. It's because people keep coming at me. Ron Broadstock keeps doing this. We're the Browns so much better than the Bengals. What does that have to do with anything? Like, what does that have to do with anything? The Bengals have a better quarterback and a better wide receiving core. That's it. That's it. Oh, they have Hendrickson. Yeah, you have Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Next. Well, they have Bates. That's fine. Super. Collectively, the secondary for Cleveland's better. I'll give linebacker. Well, Koromoa makes things interesting at linebacker, but
Pratt and Wilson.
Those guys are really good collectively.
Yeah.
So there too. Why does that matter? And he's saying no. Well, then shut up and go away. Old Kinner coming back for a time being. Just shut up and go away. Don't ask stupid questions. You ask stupid questions, you're going to get the right answer that doesn't fit your stupid narrative, and then I don't care. Run along. He's doing depth. What are you talking about depth?
There he is.
There's no depth.
There he is.
What depth do you have, Ron? What depth?
Y'all know what to do in the chat.
There's no depth. The Bengals have no depth. Where's the depth? The Browns have depth. Of course, it could have used a little bit more depth than maybe in the postseason, but it's not the point. Let's go 518-1410. Bottom. Look, every time I do pop off, I do got to counter it with the Bengals are really, really freaking good. They're the second best offense in the AFC, and it would not surprise me at all to see the Bengals in the AFC title game. They're that freaking good. And they should be when you have three elite receivers, when you have a top 5 running back in Joe Mixon, when you have Joe freaking Burrow. You're really good. What else do you want from me? Stop poking the bear, all right? Because I'm not going to apologize if I go back to start being the Bengal hater again, because I'm tired of, I got to be nice to you, but you guys get to run your mouth that you want. That's fine. Let me run my mouth then. I'm going to run my mouth. You can run. If you're going to keep running yours, I'm going to keep running mine. I don't need you to tell. The difference between me and you is I don't need you to tell me that my team's good for me to sleep at night. You bunch of pansies out there need me to tell you that your team's good so you can feel good about yourself, and I'm not going to do that. There. It took, what is today? It is January 6th, 4/17. Y'all win. Let's go to Aaron. Aaron, how are you? Welcome.
Yes, sir. What's up, bro? Kev, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Good, man. Listen, Justin, I'm proud of you. You've turned the corner, my man. Well,
have I? Doesn't sound like it right now.
Except for that last 5-minute rant. But before that, you've admitted that Joe Burrow is better than Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, and I couldn't agree more with you that the Bengals are healthy. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with admitting that. I just think that all the dingo Bengal fans just listen to this show for some reason. Because I completely agree with you. I'm a huge Bengals fan, man. Like, we're healthy at the right time. COVID never really hit us that bad, and the Browns got decimated by injuries, and so did the Steelers, so did the Ravens. But, like, who cares? We're in the playoffs, and those teams probably aren't going to be in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, like, sometimes I'll go back and I'll re-listen to things I say, and I'm like, wait a minute, why am I apologizing for telling the truth? Like, I don't feel bad. And, like, at the time when I was like in between on Burrow had played 11 games last year, so I wasn't willing to say he was better than Baker after the season that Baker had last year. But I always change as the information changes. And guess what? I would be a fool to crack this mic and say that Baker's better than Joe Burrow. Even if Baker's healthy, he's not better than this Joe Burrow. But heading into this season, I didn't see enough of Joe Burrow last year to definitely say he was better than Baker. It looked like he was ascending that way. I knew that. I've always said that the ceiling for Burrow was way higher, but he's surpassed Baker, and I'm not salty about it. That just because Burrow's better than Baker doesn't mean that Baker's bad. Like, that's what everyone always gets confused. When you say that someone's better than somebody, people take that as the person you said that was worse than the other one is bad. That's not the case. Yes, Burrow's better than Baker, duh, but that doesn't mean Baker's bad whenever he's healthy. He's pretty dang good, and I think he'll return to that next year. We'll see.
Listen, I agree with it, man. Also, I want Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, give it to me. Also, the Golden State Warriors are going to win the championship this year. It's not even going to be close. Have a good day, boys.
Take care.
Clay is back on Sunday. First the Cavs, too.
Aye. And by the way, Kyrie Irving last night looked really good. But I'm at the point where if I'm a teammate of Kyrie, the better you look, the more I'm pissed. Because every time that talent's out there, it's a constant reminder of what won't be with us when we're on the, when we're at home and when we're in big series and all that. So, where are we back? Doug Toby says, we have cheerleaders and you don't. You are quite the cheerleader, Doug. I give you that. Ron says, yes, depth for Browns at running back and secondary. I mean, I will say this. Every time a Browns secondary guy goes down, there's Newsome, there's Delpit, there's Ward, there's Johnson, there's everyone.
Not Greedy, though.
Well, he's there somewhere.
I'm just playing greedy.
Mark Smith goes, he's back. I'm not back, but you got me. You got the reaction you were aiming for. Oh, there's Charlie. He says the Browns are not better on any freaking day. They suck. Get over it. It is interesting, Kev. I was a little disappointed with you when we had Jay Morrison on because you said, oh, yeah, they blew out the Ravens twice. They blew out the Steelers. There was another team in the AFC North you forgot about. What happened there?
They got blew out by the Browns.
Yeah, they got their ass whooped. You know what? I mean, I'm telling you what. Steve from Springboro. I'm putting the bat signal out. Steve from Springboro, we want to hear from you. I need your help. I've been trying. New year, new me. Steve from Springboro could say the things that I can't because I'm trying to remain in good standing here. So before I cross the line that I can't come back from, I need help. So Steve from Springboro, if you are listening, the true American, I'll even put the music is out. If you are listening, my friend, I'm tagging you in. For the tag team champions, I'm trying to tag you in, my friend. I need you to take care of my light work. And my light work is Doug Toby. My light work is Ron Broadstock. My light work is Charlie, especially. Mark Smith, you're up there. You're going to be up there. Oh, no, he said they kicked our ass in Cincy. Okay, Mark Smith, you're off the list. But you might be on the hamburger drill list. That's the thing. That could be it. Ron Howard says, I'm surprised you're not jumping on the Cowboys bandwagon because the Browns suck. Okay, Ron, thank you for your contributions. Shaw said earlier that we're ignoring him. I'm not ignoring you. You just haven't said anything worthwhile.
Is Harbaugh bouncing?
I'm joking, David Shaw, of course. I don't know. I mean, yes, it sounds like it.
Bears or the Raiders?
Yesterday we had Jason on. Of course, the Raiders really, really want him, but the Bears seem to make the most sense. Which would you rather go? If I'm Harbaugh, you're going to take over, but Harbaugh with Justin Fields?
He has developed quarterbacks. I mean, he did develop Alex Smith, developed Kaepernick. They went to the Super Bowl with Kaepernick.
Think of all the quarterbacks at Ohio State he made look really good.
So he did do that in the NFL, not so much in college. I think he's going. I think he's using this for leverage to get his money back at Michigan. Like,
well, he shouldn't have given it away to all the poor people.
He's like, look, I took that pay cut.
Yeah.
We got to the playoff. I want my money back
by July. 518-1410, 518-1410. Ron Broadstock says, my issue is you keep saying the Browns are so much better. When have I... Okay, I have said that, yes, I'm healthy, but I'm not talking about that anymore. I've stopped bringing that. I'm going to calm down again. I've stopped bringing that up. I don't want to get into this. Let me tell you how bad I think your Bengals are when they've just clinched the division, made the playoffs, and we're prepping for a Bengals playoff game. I don't want this to be that. So stop turning it into that. You guys are weird, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. Your fan base gets made fun of more than Browns fans, just so you know. The only people that believe what you believe are within your fan base. Everyone else mocks you and makes fun of you. I mean, Charlie brought it up the other day that look at all the division titles we've won. Look how many times we've been to the playoffs. And that's what's sad is you do what you're supposed to do to get people to buy in, and they still don't believe that you're a good franchise. So enough with this. Stop coming at me. I've stopped coming at you. Why are you coming at me? I don't get it. New year, new me.
They want that pound of flesh, man. They 15 weeks, man. You gave it to them for 15 weeks. They want that pound of flesh.
New year, new me, new year, same stupid fans. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Oh, Shaw with the pill emojis and the cap emojis. In
Mark Smith going, Justin, my issue is you keep saying the Browns are so much better, but they're not better at any position group other than O-line. Facts. You can't give a stupid opinion and then say facts. Just because you say facts with 5 explanation points at the end doesn't make it a fact. That's fact. God. That's it. I give it up. I'm going back to the old me.
Oh, no. You didn't even make it a week.
What's that?
Yes.
Is it him?
It is.
Okay. My tag team partner is here. The one, the only, the true American. What up, dude? Did he leave me hanging? No, he's there. Hey, what the hell?
Oh, man, he got bum rushed. He got bum rushed on his way to the ring.
You know when you go to tag, like in the match, and then you go to dive and make the tag, and then someone pulls his foot off the apron, and then it's like, oh, that's just what happened. That was disappointing. Steve from Springboro, where are you at?
He needs help.
All right, we got a guest coming up, Brent Sobleski with Bleacher Report. We'll talk Browns, we'll talk Bengals, we'll talk NFL playoffs. That's all coming up next right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. What the hell, Steve?
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
34 teams, 19 games, all in 4 days, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. It's the 2022 Premier Health Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, January 14th through the 17th. Don't miss out on a chance to see some of the best local and national teams and players. Huntington Prep, Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's, Wayne, Dunbar, Centerville, and more. It's the 2022 Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. Get your tickets at flyingtothehoop.com/tickets.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Hi, it's Steve Mann. Have you heard the commercials for the Mark Patrick Stop Smoking seminars? And they said only $49.99 and it could work for you. So I thought, that's not even a week's worth of smoking. So I went. And guess what? It did work for me. You know, my friends and family are still amazed. I quit smoking. I didn't have cravings, anxiety, or weight gain. Listen, I don't know how it works, but I know it works because I'm living proof, and it's 100% guaranteed. So what do you got to lose? I'll tell you what you got to lose. A very bad habit.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and stop smoking now without cravings, irritability, weight gain, or your money back. Only $49.99 guaranteed. Designed to work without anxiety, irritability, or weight gain for only $49.99. Become a non-smoker. That's right. Seminar times are 8 to 10 p.m. on Thursday, January 13th at the Holiday Inn in Fairborn and 2 to 4 p.m. on Saturday, January 15th at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites in Dayton. Registration 30 minutes before seminar.
And now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that non-contact thermometers are not accurate. They also have inaccurate information on their labels regarding accuracy. New COVID strains are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
is pretty bad.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind. Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres? No matter your learning style or experience level, Babbel has lessons designed for you that will get you speaking quickly and confidently.
I tried learning Spanish before, but I couldn't stick with it until I found Babbel.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said, now we speak Spanish.
I can't wait to use our new language skills on our upcoming adventures.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizza, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint and proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Tired of being tracked online? DuckDuckGo can help. With one download, you can search and browse privately, avoiding trackers, all for free. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on The Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
Now, the true American, Stephen Springborough, going to leave me hanging. And I'll give a shout out to Stephen Springborough because he left me hanging, Kev, he's being accused of being a Bengals fan.
Uh-oh.
Saying that he's given up on his Browns and he's officially a Bengals fan.
Well, he'll be calling in any second because you know that ain't true.
Yeah, and Charles, he's just stirring the pot. Browns are not better. You name players I've never heard of. You have Chubb and Garrett. Build around them and call me. Browns aren't in the playoffs. I'm not trying to sell the Browns on anybody right now. They keep bringing it up. I'm trying to make this about the Bengals in the playoffs. I've admitted I was wrong. There's only one thing to do when you're wrong, and that's admit you're wrong. Otherwise, you just continue to look foolish. I was wrong. It's as simple as that. Oh, my gosh. So, Dave Fraley. Oh, here we go. The Bengals have had injuries this year also. Stop. You have had Joe Burrow every game this year, and T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase, and stop. I am not discrediting what you guys accomplished. It's as simple as they are very fortunate that they stayed healthy the entire year. The reason that you won as many games as you did is because of the talented players on the field, and you had them. The talented players on the field last year for the Browns that led them to their 12-win season, which included a playoff appearance and a playoff win on the road at Pittsburgh, was because they were fortunate last year to be healthy all year. It's that simple. Stop getting angry at me because I said, the Bengals are not the best team in the AFC North. They're just the healthiest. That's a fact. Every analyst I've talked to has said the same thing. So stop. It's okay. Your team is good. Even if the Browns or Ravens were healthy, the Bengals would still be in the playoffs. It's not like one team per division makes it. Like they would still be in the playoffs. But I'll give you this. If the Browns are completely healthy, I'm not saying that they are for sure winning this division, but I promise you this much. If the Ravens are healthy, they are for sure winning the division. And that's okay. You would still have, you'd have 2 less wins, I guess. But it's not the point. Anyways, 518-1410. We'll get to your calls coming up here in just a moment. I'm excited to bring on our next guest, NFL analyst with Bleacher Report, Brent Sobleski. Brent, welcome in. I know Bengals fans they've come at you quite a lot lately. They've wanted to remind you of some of the things you've said about the team in the draft from last year. I've had to hear it all, too. I figured we'd start our own little support group over here.
We meet at the bar afterwards. Thank you for having me, per usual. And yes, it's actually quite hilarious. It's almost like clockwork. If Jamar Chase performs well or the Bengals win, Bengals fans are all up in my mentions. If he doesn't and they didn't win, I don't hear anything. And it's just hilarious to me, and especially when those who come at me for, yes, I gave the selection of Jamar Chase an F during draft grades because I thought they went the wrong direction. Obviously, he's going to be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, deservedly so. He's been phenomenal. The one thing I question, even though I'm eating a bit of crow here, the one thing I question, still the number one sacked quarterback in the NFL. And that was my contention all along, because I want to see Joe Burrow flourish. I think he's a special, special talent.
You know, and that was my point from the very beginning, and I know it was yours as well. I heard you when you were on Mo Egger's show, around the draft after, because he had you on to because Cincinnati fans were going at you because you gave him the F. But the thing is, and I know you've said this before, that you didn't give him an F because you thought that that Jamar Chase would be a bust and that he was no good. You gave him an F because their number one priority should have been to finally protect that franchise quarterback, and they did not do that. Still didn't even do it to this year. The thing is, though, I asked Jason Fitz when he was on with us earlier in the week. I had said, is it possible that both sides are right? That you and I and others were right for saying they should have made a priority of protecting Joe Burrow, and everyone else was right too for saying that they made the right pick with Jamar Chase, because both ended up kind of panning out. The only thing is that the Bengals are lucky Joe Burrow hasn't got hurt. 50 sacks, and that doesn't include all the times he's been hit and touched throughout the season as well.
I think it is a case where both sides of the argument are at least partially right, when you look at it. So it's not me trying to cop out and trying to rationalize what I did, because I've already gone out and we had the midseason grades where you go back to the draft and you regrade them based on their performance. I gave Jamar Chase an A. See, I am capable of owning those mistakes. My F designation was a failure, in my opinion, at the time, of how to properly build around a franchise quarterback. And so when you look at this organization, they deserve all the success they're getting. They're fun to watch. It's a very talented team. They've done a very nice job. When they go into next offseason, what's going to be discussion? Adding an offensive lineman again. So while they, yes, will have the NFL Offensive Rookie and Jamar Chase, and he is unbelievable, record setter, I can't say enough good things about the talent. At the same time, they're essentially going into the third straight offseason, still needing to address the offensive line because it hasn't been done properly. And that's unfortunate, because you legitimately do have one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. He's truly special, and now he's on an MVP trajectory, and you want to do everything possible to protect him and put the best of surrounding cast around him.
Brent, I don't know your thoughts on this. Kevin and I talked about this yesterday. I said, you wonder if Joe Burrow's great season could be used against him, because Mike Brown has always historically been known as, it's like pulling teeth to get him to buy into investing into an offensive line. And, we made the joke, if you think about, working in sports media, I'm not sure how your work's been impacted, but, with us, we're bare bones where we work now, and we've lost so many employees. And it's like, you wonder if we're going to fill those positions back, or is it one of those, hey, because we found a way to make it work with so little people here, will we ever get those people back? Because they said, hey, you clearly don't need 3 or 4 assistants. Clearly, you don't need all these people doing these things for you to help make your job easier, because ratings, revenue, all that's still great. I wonder and hope that that's not the case in Cincinnati, where Mike Brown's like, see, I don't need to provide an offensive line. I don't need to invest in that offensive line. Joe Burrow's MVP candidate as the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. You almost hope that that's not the case, that it ends up working against him, where now there's not urgency to increase the improvement of the offensive line because of that.
Well, it's not just sacks, right? It's amount percentage of pressure on dropbacks, which he was third in the league coming into this league this past weekend. So that's not. It's consistent. Like, there's times where you get sacked, but it's not always consistent with the amount of pressure you're facing. With Cincinnati, it has been, and up until week 17, because I went back and looked for those who like the PFF grades. I looked at all 5 starting offensive linemen for the Cincinnati Bengals because I was curious. Because every time I turn on and watch them, the Bengals, they are exciting to watch. And offensively, they're dynamic. But there's multiple times every game you see Joe Burrow running for his life. Now, some of that's him trying to extend the play. Other times, it's absolutely necessary. So up until the last 2 games, they didn't have a single starter rated in the top 30 in pass protection for their respective position. That's not good, gentlemen, right? And you have to listen not just for us on the outside who are evaluating him, but Mike Brown should listen to his quarterback. What did Joe Burrow say this week? His knee's bothering him. Now, it's not enough to where he wouldn't play if they needed him, but at the same time, you do not want this to become a nagging situation where he gets beat up and that knee continues to be a problem. And so hopefully the owner realizes, look, your quarterback is saying, I'm a little banged up, so I'm going to need that help eventually, but I can play through it at the moment.
We have Brent Sobleski with us, NFL analyst, talking Bengals in the playoffs. We'll get to the Browns coming up here in just a moment right now. But as we head into this playoffs, there's a possibility of them playing the Patriots, possibly playing, the Chargers. Where do the Bengals stack up in the AFC pool right now as the playoffs are just under a week away at this point, or just a little over a week away at this point? Where do the Bengals stack up? Because I know it's easy to get into the trap of looking at the full body of work, but the Bengals in weeks, 14, or in 15, 16, 17 are not the same Bengals from the beginning of the season. This team looks pretty damn good, and they're very explosive, and their offense is right on par with Kansas City and maybe better. I mean, they won the shootout this past weekend. I'm not willing to go as far as that, but where do they kind of rank amongst the other NFC, AFC teams in this playoff pool right now? What kind of chance do you give them heading into the playoffs?
Well, let's be honest. This entire postseason picture is wide open. I mean, if you look at the NFL from a macro point of view, this was the parity season of all parity seasons that the NFL's always wanted. There's no slam dunk number 1 seed that dominated the league throughout. That just didn't exist. Now, the closest thing's the Green Bay Packers at 13-3, but that's on the NFC side of things, and even they have questions specifically due to injuries. So when you look at where the AFC stands, it's amazing, really, that the Tennessee Titans are the number 1 seed, and they should do everything they possibly can to retain that number 1 seed this weekend. Because if they get an extra week off, guess who practices this week? Derrick Henry. So if you give him an extra week to heal and start, and then you can go back to him being your workhorse, your offense, that will make you very difficult to beat. But I bring Tennessee up for example because I do think Cincinnati has the capability of beating any team in the AFC, but there are certain squads that aren't good matchups, and Tennessee's a prime example. Tennessee has arguably the best defensive front in football. If you're talking about Jeffrey Simmons up the middle, or Harold Landry comes screaming off the edge of Bud Dupree, and so on and so forth. Danico Autry, these guys are dynamic in the trenches, which is not something you say on a regular occasion. And if you are struggling along the offensive line, as we have seen with the Cincinnati Bengals, a team like the Tennessee could just be disastrous if you would face them, especially early in the postseason. So I look at that. Those are the types of teams that would bother me. Patriots are another one. I know you have Mac Jones, a rookie quarterback, but think of Bill Belichick devising a defensive game plan in the postseason, mind you. And with the veterans he has on that side of the ball could be very interesting. Indianapolis is another one because the way they can control the clock if they were to make it in with the run game, they'd fly to the football on the defensive side. So I think there are some definite questionable matchups for Cincinnati, though I will give them the credit of saying they can beat anyone if they play to their full capabilities.
The offense gets all the love and all the attention, but that defense has made plays this season. I think back to that Jacksonville game on that Thursday night. I think back to Wilson making that fourth down stop inside the red zone, which sparked the comeback for them. Mike Hilton, a free agent from the Pittsburgh Steelers, even a guy that I've been raking over the coals since his days at Ohio State, Eli Apple. He's been playing pretty solid in the secondary. So this defense is going to need to step up as well in the playoffs, right?
Absolutely. And they have the horses on that side, too. I mean, let's give them credit where credit's due. Trey Hendrickson was one of the best offseason acquisitions of any team. There was questions whether he could repeat what he did with the New Orleans Saints a year ago, simply because when you look at it, could he be more than just a guy who rushed off the right side with a speed rush? Well, it doesn't matter because he's still doing very, very well with 14 sacks going into the last week, although he's not expected to play. You have him. You have Sam Hubbard. Larry Ogunjobi, a very nice addition. Look, I watched every snap of Larry's career when he was with the Cleveland Browns. I did not think that was a great addition because he always struggled at the point of attack. He's playing much better alongside DJ Reader, who is just a load in the middle of that defense. So you have the front four capabilities. And I'm glad you brought up Eli Apple. I really am, because this is a guy that's really struggled early in his career, but he's become at least relatively consistent for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to say he's a superstar or anything along those lines, but when you have the talent you have at safety with Jesse Bates and Von Bell and guys that can pick up the slack and do their job properly, it makes life easier on cornerbacks, and someone as talented and young as Eli Apple can start to flourish a little bit. So I look at that and think to myself, they have the type of playmakers at pretty much every level. Maybe you question a linebacker, but Logan Wilson has a good nose for the football. I think that is an often overlooked aspect of their improvement as a team, is that defense and the playmakers they do possess.
Brent, a lot of noise in Cleveland. I feel like we're back to normal. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Cleveland, I mean, it wouldn't be Cleveland offseason of old if we're not talking about chaos and question marks at quarterback and head coaches, of course. I still believe Baker's back in Cleveland next year. So is, Kevin Stefanski. I think that, health has been the biggest issue. And when you lose, it opens up a lot of wounds. And there's not. I said this to open up the show today, Brent. Find me a team that has a losing record right now that is not experiencing some kind of drama in their locker room. Losing, I mean, when you're a pro athlete, you're uber competitive. You don't get to become uber competitive in a pro athlete unless you care. And people who lose, they care, and it leads to a lot of this type of drama. A lot of drama in Cleveland, though. Obviously, injuries have played a huge role in the struggles this year. Inconsistency, play calling's been a question. COVID, of course, impacted that 1 week that was a must-win for them against the Raiders. Where are you at with the mess in Cleveland right now? I think Baker's back next year, but do you believe he's back? And how much of that injury to that non-throwing shoulder played a role in his stepping back this year and not ascending the way we saw him last year?
Or you can be the Super Bowl champions and still have drama.
Very true.
But to your point with the Cleveland Browns and where they currently stand, I agree that there seems to be a little bit of animosity kind of bubbling under the surface. And you're right. I think a lot of that has to do with not only falling well below expectations, but at the same time coming off a disastrous effort against the rival Pittsburgh Steelers, if you even want to call it a rival considering the last 20 years. So I think all of that has really come to a head a little bit. But if you look at the situation logically, particularly from a financial perspective, Baker Mayfield's the most likely starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in 2022. Well, first of all, when you go and look at last offseason, they were fully committed to him. Now, does that change based on the way he performed? Maybe. But at the same time, what are your viable alternatives? Are you going to be one of those teams that's on the trade demand list for an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Derek Carr? I'll even throw Deshaun Watson in there, although it depends on your personal feelings on him as a quarterback and what has happened off the field. So the likelihood of those guys landing in Cleveland, I would say, are slim to none. But what you do know is they've already invested a fifth-year rookie option in him, which is guaranteed at around $18.7 million. So when you look at this year, the way I've basically espoused his play is very simple. You acknowledge the injuries because they obviously had an effect. You had not only the partially broken collarbone, but the torn labrum, bad knee, bad heel. Okay, so it is what it is. But at the same time, if you as a player are on the field competing, you still need to produce. And he failed miserably in that regard. So which version of your quarterback is going to show up? And that's why I think he'll have to prove himself next year as their starting quarterback for Cleveland to finally commit to him long-term or decide to move on.
If they're healthy this year, who are the Cleveland Browns? I mean, it's a roster that won 12 games last year, including that playoff game, at Pittsburgh. But then they added Johnson, they added Hill, they added Jadeveon Clowney, they added because they added a lot of big names to really bolster. They focused on all offense the offseason before, and it was all about the defense. You're adding Newsome in the draft and Koromoa, of course. it's a better roster than last year's 12-win team, included a playoff win. If they're healthy, and I mean relatively healthy, I mean no team's always healthy. No team's lucky like the Cincinnati Bengals. But who are the Cleveland Browns if they're healthy in relative to the AFC North?
I think they're at least a win or two better. And I know that seems marginal, but in the NFL, that's a great difference when you consider how close every game is on a consistent basis. Because when you look at it, there was a couple games, particularly late in the year, whether we're looking at the Raiders, Packers specifically, where competent quarterback play essentially wins you that game. Now, you can't say that earlier in the season because the defense really struggled, particularly on 3rd and 4th down. And they allowed teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers basically to move the ball at will on them. So that's a whole different issue that they had to address. And it finally came together over the second half of the season. But I will say, again, if you look at the way that Baker performed in those situations late, when the team really needed victories, he really played poorly. And maybe even if you sat him at that juncture with a Case Keenum, I'm not saying Case Keenum's better than Baker Mayfield or anything along those lines, but simply getting respectable quarterback play and doing the things that he needs to do within the system, you're probably a win or two better at bare minimum. So I think that's, one of the major factors in this year, but you have to take into account injuries, whether we're talking about Nick Chubb being dinged, Kareem Hunt being dinged, both your offensive tackles missing significant time. Moving on from Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry not fully healthy, and you can go on and on with Cleveland this year. So things, essentially, it was a perfect cycle of suck. It went wrong for them, and you take it all in stride and you move on because the team is talented enough to continue to win under the supervision of General Manager Andrew Berry and Head Coach Kevin Stefanski.
You talk about Baker Mayfield and him being banged up and hurting. Everybody goes back to his line, says, I make the decisions about if I'm a player or not. I don't think I've ever heard a quarterback say that and them actually go out there and play and everything like that. Who's really calling the shots? Because there's so many rumors floating around that it was Baker's call that he was going to play. It was Stefanski's call. It was the front office's call. Like, what are you hearing? Whose call was it to keep rolling him out there week after week, week after week, all banged up, playing poorly?
I don't have an exact answer, and I'm not going to lie to you and say I do, but at every level of football I've ever been at and been around, that's a coach's call. If you're not playing well enough, the coach has the authority to pull you out of the lineup. Now, people would say that would ruin the dynamic as your starter when he's cleared medically. When you consider the confluence of all the different injuries he was dealing with, that was a built-in excuse.
Right.
You weren't benching him per se. You were essentially just not playing him because he wasn't healthy enough. And yes, each injury can be cleared medically, but it doesn't mean you're capable of performing at a level that's commensurate with your position. So to me, yes, a player can say they want to play. I mean, guys, if you've ever played sports at any level, every player says he wants to play and doesn't want to come out of the game. So I don't really care what he said publicly. Right. It's up to those in authoritative positions to save him from himself. So I pointed directly at Kevin Stefanski. They could have made a move. They decided not to, and that's unfortunate because it essentially cost them their season.
All right, Brent Sobleski, NFL analyst with Bleacher Report. I appreciate your time. I'll let you know when our meetings resume for our, for our Bengals Haters Anonymous class, and we'll resume here, after the playoffs. It's just too painful right now during the playoffs.
I'll bring the beverages. There's a bunch of quality breweries in the state of Ohio. I'm sure we can find something.
There you go, Brent. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. Happy New Year, and everyone stay safe out there.
All right. All right, good stuff. Appreciate Brent Sobleski again. Covers all things NFL. A lot of Browns, a lot of Bengals, AFC North stuff. But I appreciate Brent taking time and hanging out with us here. Yeah, there's still. I don't think Baker's going anywhere. I still think there's just a lot of questions that need to be answered, though, as far as what happened this year, because it's not just the injury. There's drama behind the scenes that goes beyond that. But
absolutely, you know who ain't gonna answer that question? Coach. You don't answer questions.
We'll just follow Mary Kay Cabot and her sources. She needs Baker to put food on that table. How about that? I love that line, by the way. Don't put words in my mouth to put food on your table. How about that? Not a bad one. All right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash here on Dayton's ESPN radio station 1410 Wing AM. The show brought to you by Tim's Bar and Grill on Brown Street and Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Look, last thing here on the as far as the Bengals are concerned, this weekend, it's all about resting up. It's all about preparing for the week ahead. It could be one of those. And by the way, 518-1410. Which opponent is more suitable for the Bengals to go against? Who would you rather them go up against? Not who you want to see them play, like from an entertainment standpoint. I think Chargers-Bengals is more entertaining. I might be in the minority here when I say I think that the Patriots is the matchup you want more. I know they have better defense, but I'm not confident Mac Jones can go toe-for-toe with Joe Burrow as far as I'm concerned.
No way. No way that I want my first playoff start to go against Bill Belichick. No way. I've seen it too many times, man. I've seen it too many times. He will devise some wacky defense, and Jamar Chase will end up with one catch. Like, C.J. Jackson is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and we know how great a defensive mind that Bill Belichick, and now his son is the defensive coordinator. So, if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I feel more comfortable in a shootout because that's what it's going to be with the Chargers, because the Chargers can't stop a nosebleed. The only dude that consistently plays defense on that team is Derwin James. Everybody else, we don't know if they're going to play or not. So I will be far more comfortable in a shootout than trying to bang my head up against that wall known as Bill Belichick and New England Patriots.
The reason I'm saying the Patriots is because I know they have good defense. But, look at the way, and this is me overpraising the Bengals, that offense is too damn good. I'm not saying that that the Patriots have no chance. But to me, if the Patriots defense slows down Joe Burrow in this offense, what is slowing down at this point? I mean, we're talking, 28 points still? Can Mac Jones put up 28 points?
They just went to, where did they go? They went to Denver, right?
Yeah, it was Denver.
Denver has a good defense. And they scored 16?
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go right there.
Wait, who scored 16?
The Bengals. I believe it was 16-13, right? I want to say the final was 16-13.
Yeah, but it seems, and again, this is why I brought up with Brent earlier about going back throughout the season is, bring up games of the past. It's always about who's hot heading into the playoffs. There's a switch that's been
15-10, 15-10.
Yeah, okay, but there's a switch that's been flipped right now for Cincinnati.
Right.
That's why I'm not going to, because I could bring up, they can't even, Patriots, they can't even beat the Jets. I could go there, but I'm not, because it's really about how they're playing now. And the way that they're playing now, something's clicked. And it's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, remember, there was a stretch when people got mad at me in the chat saying that you were saying how he was a bust at the beginning of the season. First of all, no, he wasn't. He had 700 yards the first 6 weeks of the season. He went off. I never said he sucked. I brought up that he cooled down because he had a month and a half straight of 50 yards or less and just a few touchdowns. And then that switch has been flipped again. All I'm saying is the way they look right now, I'm not expecting a 400-yard, 4-touchdown performance from Joe Burrow like we've seen 500 yards and all that against the Ravens and even against this past week. But at the same time, it's one of those where that offense is clicking on all cylinders right now. New England will slow them down, yes, but what does slowing them down mean? Even slowing them down still puts them a tick ahead of Mac Jones in that offense. To where you go against the Chargers, Joe Burrow can have his way with that defense, but Justin Herbert can have his same way with the Bengals defense. Justin Herbert's as good as Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow has separated himself a tad, though. I will say that over the last couple of weeks. So the question I have, Bengals fans, 518-1410, not so much about Patriots or Chargers, who would you rather play, but are the Bengals that team that just flipped that switch and are just hot at the moment, is just a couple hot games, or is this who they are? Because that's the big question. That's where, this is why if they could have flipped that switch a week or so sooner, Kev, I think I would be more locked in on this answer. But I didn't put a lot of stock into that Ravens win at first because I'm they're beating up on a depleted secondary. I'd hope that you can have your way with it. But then they followed it up with that same performance against a team that was just in the Super Bowl a year ago. And keep in mind, Kansas City, they've been playing really, really good defense since that first month. They were historically bad defensively the first month of the season. They've been top 10 worthy ever since then. And Joe Burrow had his way with them. It looked like they were going up against the Ravens from the week before. So to me, I can't tell. Is this who the Bengals are? Have they finally figured it out? Now this is who they are moving forward, or is this just a hot streak? Is this just Kenner hitting a couple threes who normally can't hit threes? I need to know. 518-1410. We'll take some of your calls here before we close out the second hour. Let's go to James. James, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys, this is a great topic. So I'll answer in two ways. Justin, first, I think that, yes, they've hit their streak, and they've kind of, as a team, gelled together. towards the end of the season, which is not surprising. They obviously had some clunkers in there against the Browns and Chargers. But I will kind of also just respond to what you're talking about earlier regarding who would personally would I rather than play. And I think, as you guys both know, football and baseball, it's about matchups. Basketball, it's about matchups. And the Chargers, the way they dominated the Bengals, makes me nervous. Didn't like that. Not sure exactly why. But I think, Justin, going back to the Patriots, and Kev, I understand Kev's point. I don't want to go up against Belichick either. I don't. But somehow or another, I like our odds better against the Patriots and Mac Jones than what we've got.
Yeah, because you have to have enough. I mean, look, the Bengals defense, they make just enough plays. They have just enough guys in the secondary. They have a pass rush. You would like to think the linebackers will be healthy by that point. The Bengals have just enough firepower defensively to where even if it's not elite, it's just enough to be able to make some noise to slow down Mac Jones. And even if you slow down Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon, slowing them down still puts you at about that 24, 28 point range. Can Mac Jones and the Patriot offense put up 28 points? That's going to be a big debate. So, and like I said, on the flip side, I know that I have more confidence that Joe Burrow and the Bengals can have success against the Chargers defense. Still pretty good, by the way. I know they can have success against them, or feel confident that they can, but Justin Herbert worries me more than Mac Jones. Honestly, a lot of it comes down to quarterback matchups in the playoffs, and that's why I'm kind of favoring the Patriots. Also, I know people like to say, oh, look out for the Patriots and look out for Bill Belichick. Well, 2 years ago, it was Ryan Tannehill that beat Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, and they didn't even make the playoffs last year. They've lost 6 times. 6 teams have figured them out this year. So I'm not saying that there's no way in hell the Patriots have a chance of beating Cincinnati. I kind of like the variables in there, if you will.
How do you think the Bengals match up against the Bills?
Very similar, except the difference is that it's all on the arm of Josh Allen, and there's no run game outside of Josh Allen's run game. And I still think that in a playoff game, in a tight game situation, I'm still going to go with the Bengals. Look, I'm not going to say a big fan. Holy smokes, I got to revert that. Big believer of Joe Burrow at this point. The last 2 weeks, I can't deny what he's done the last 2 weeks. However, was that just a little hot streak? Is he going to revert back to he has 4 games under 200 yards this year. At one point, he led the league in interceptions until 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks without a turnover, which has been huge. That's why I think that this switch has been flipped for Joe Burrow in this offense. And I think, I'm confident in their ability heading in.
Isn't the Bills' pass defense really good?
Yeah, look, everyone's going to be really good in the playoffs. You're going to face a good team no matter what. The Colts defense is really good. The Bills, the Patriots. The Chargers still have Bosa. They have a great pass rush as well.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Take care. 518-1410. Dick A., how are you?
Hello.
Happy retirement.
Oh, Justin, I just wanted to tell you and Kevin, I started the first, but, I'm telling you, Justin, I got so many things, I wanted to tell you what I got. They got
for retirement. You got, gifts.
Yeah, guess
cool
what they got me? They got me a Ricky Skaggs mandolin. How about that?
That is pretty neat. Did your work got it for you?
Yeah, they chipped in, and I got a lot of gift certificates, like at Roosters and things like that, and they gave me 12 cards. It was really nice, Justin.
Man, we're going to have lunch this week, Dickie. Lunch on you. We'll use them gift cards.
Hey, Justin, can I say something?
Absolutely.
I am thoroughly disgusted with the Cleveland Browns organization. Justin,
what's that for?
A team of hope and hope that I thought were going to go this year. What do you think was the mental collapse of them?
Well, losing's not easy. Keep in mind, they started out 3-1 when healthy, and when injuries kicked in, they start losing. This is not a very mature team. Look, people say you got to learn how to win. Sometimes you got to learn how to lose too. And although I know that sounds funny, this team should know how to lose by now, but it's tough to lose when you have all the expectations in the world to win. The Bengals weren't expected to be this. So that's why it's like they've always had the card of, well, if we lose, we're supposed to. And if we win, it's just gravy. The Browns had one job and one job only, and that was to win. And that kind of pressure, I think, mounts up. And I think that there's just so many things working against them this year that was working for them last year. I just think it was too much to keep up with. I think they'll be okay next year, but I'm with you, Dick. It's been a disaster of a year.
What do you think? The Bengals are sky high, and every year something happens like this. Do you have any faith that they can upset? They can upset the Bengals, but not the way they're playing.
Upset who?
Do you think they'll beat the Browns?
Oh, this week, it's a toss-up. Kev, what's the line? Isn't Cleveland like a 7-point favorite or something? Yeah, Brandon Allen, the backup quarterback for the Bengals, going against Case Keenum. Cleveland's still going to be playing more of their main guys than Cincinnati. I'm going to go with Cleveland this weekend, but really the result doesn't matter. It matters. You would love to end the season with the win if you're the Browns, and if you're Cincinnati, you'd love to continue your win streak and take it into the playoffs. But overall, it's not a season-defining game by any means.
Another thing, Justin, I was happy about. What did you think of the second half of the Ohio State game, how they came back?
They figured out how to play defense in that second half, or either they figured out how to play defense or Utah forgot how to play offense. It hurt them that their quarterback went out early in that fourth quarter. But I was glad to see Ryan Day and Ohio State end the season with the win, because if you look at C.J. Stroud, he almost had 1,000 yards total passing in the last two games. But if you add up the Michigan yards and the Utah yards and 8 touchdowns between the two, that's how bad that defense was, that if it wasn't for that field goal at the end of regulation, they could have been 0-2 in their last 2 games with the quarterback throwing for almost 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. They needed that win heading into the offseason.
And the Bengals with Joe Burrow, were you shocked that they won that division this year?
Yes. Yes, Dickie. I didn't want them to win the division, but they looked very good doing it. You have three 1,000-yard receivers almost, but pretty much 3 1,000-yard receivers. Joe Burrow throws for well over 4,000 yards. Is an MVP candidate. Joe Mixon's a top 5. They're just so dang explosive. So maybe I'm not surprised. Maybe I should not be surprised that a team with that much explosiveness is sitting atop that division right now, but we'll see.
I think in Cleveland, you got to out of the 3 teams, I really do think the way the Cavaliers playing, not this year they'll make it, but I think next year they'll be okay.
Absolutely. But hey, Dickie, we're out of time, man.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure, buddy. And I'm playing a lot of music. I'm sure the store. I got to get back there and get another gift certificate. But I went in the other day.
How many more do you need? Do you every time?
I got enough. I got enough stuff from Lowe's. But I'm playing music now, enjoying myself.
Sounds like a plan. I can't wait for my retirement many, many moons from now. Dickie, take care, buddy.
Have a good day. Always a pleasure.
Take care.
Later, Dickie.
Oh, cut him off. Guillotine. Guillotine. All right, good stuff. 518-1410. 518-1410. Doug Toby, doesn't matter who won the North. Trending up. Young team. Future looks bright. A year or two ahead of schedule. Stop saying a year or two ahead of schedule. You have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, and Joe Mixon, and Joe Burrow. What is this? It's the NFL. There's no such thing as 2 years ahead of schedule. The Browns went 0-16, won 7 games the next year. The Jaguars a few years ago were 3-13. Very next year, we're a quarter away from beating the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl. Stop with this 2 years ahead of schedule stuff. The NFL is built to where you never have to be 2 to 3 years ahead of schedule. You're right on schedule. If anything, you could say you're behind schedule because Joe Burrow goes down with that injury last year. He would have had his coming out party a lot sooner. Stop saying they're ahead of schedule. They're not ahead of schedule. You have a $200 million defense. You have a top 5 running back. You have 3 1,000-yard wide receivers and an MVP candidate quarterback. What the hell kind of world do you live in that you think that the Bengals are ahead of schedule? They're right where they should be. I'm giving them a lot of credit, but I'm not going to let you guys do, because it's a loser mentality, Doug Toby. I'm calling you out. That's a loser mentality. We're 2 years ahead of schedule because I know what you're doing. Because when you get your ass kicked in the first round of the playoffs, if that happens, you're going to say, yeah, well, it's a great season. We're trending upwards. Blah, blah, trending up. You have 3 1,000-yard wide receivers, a top 5 running back, an MVP candidate, a quarterback, and a $200 million defense ahead of schedule. What's wrong with you? Get that weak stuff out of here. I ain't going to put up with that. It's ahead of schedule. Give me a break.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Millions of people use Zoom Phone, the innovative and feature-rich cloud phone system for businesses of any size. Zoom Phone is simple to use, whether you're on a mobile device, desktop, laptop, or desk phone. And because every call is important to your business, Zoom Phone was built with reliability in mind, using geographic redundancy to keep your communications online. Empower your workforce with Zoom Phone. Visit zoom.com/phone system. Zoom, how the world connects.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
How are you going to save? With Price Busters at Menards. These prices are scary low. Add instant warmth and ambience to your home with a 20-inch infrared electric fireplace stove. It heats up to 400 square feet for only $89.99. Or get the 56-inch Hensley Media electric fireplace that heats up to 1,000 square feet and holds up to a 65-inch TV. Pick one up for $299.99 after sale price and $100 mail-in rebate. See store for details now at Menards. Savings good through January 15th.
Save big money at Menards.
Looking to save money this year? Look at Allstate. You can get the protection you need at the low rates you want. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be mostly cloudy and cold with snow showers, a high near 24. Tonight will be mostly cloudy and very cold, a low around 10. And tomorrow will be partly cloudy and cold, a high near 23. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Weather brought to you by Cullet Propane, keeping utilities simple and families warm since 1952. See how and more at culletpropane.com.
These are tough times, but it's even worse if you're stuck paying endless fees for a timeshare you were misled into buying.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. And now, more than ever, taking care of our physical and financial health has never been more important. If you were told that timeshare was a great investment or your maintenance fees will never go up, you need my help. In 2020, a lot of things have changed. One thing hasn't. Our commitment to helping good folks just like you cancel your
need at the low rate you want. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Gentlemen, now you can find the best brands and fits for you without even trying. Just follow these easy instructions. Step 1, shop a personalized store that does all the work for you by customizing a selection for your taste and body. Step 2, level up your closet with the best brands and fits with little to no effort. Not trying has never looked so good. Introducing Stitch Fix Freestyle, your personalized store. We're so you.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizza, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Are you tired of living with chronic pain, knee pain, joint pain? Listen carefully, because now there are new treatments available here. Not talking steroids or surgery. These are regenerative treatments from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Hi, this is Keith Byers. QC Kinetics is a leader in these exciting biologic therapies that help restore and repair damaged tissue in your joints with lasting results. If you got pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back, joint pain that won't go away, you need to check out these new treatments with astonishing patient satisfaction reports. They can actually help your body restore and repair itself with no downtime, no drugs, no surgery. Don't go through another year with that awful joint pain, and don't let them put you under the knife. You need to learn more about how biologic therapies are changing the way we think about dealing with joint pain. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. 937-936-0325. That number again is 937-936-0325.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. And, of course, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. So, apparently, we've talked about there's a lot of contributing factors to why this college football playoff, this past weekend, the semifinals, both matchups were the second and third least watched semifinals ever. Now, there's a lot of contributing factors to this. I mean, a lot of people like to bring up the fact that, money talks, and that's why he thinks it's rigged because they're going to put the bigger markets in, and that's why Cincinnati, many people didn't think they should be in because they're not, there's not a huge ratings draw. I kind of believe that. I do believe that's a little bit of it. I mean, it's not a surprise why teams from LA draw bigger, numbers because there's just more fans of those teams because there's more of a audience to decide whether or not they want to be a fan of that or not. I believe that has something to do with it, but at the same time, we've known for years that putting these games on New Year's Eve is just an absolute terrible. It's a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna. I mean, I didn't forget that the playoffs were on, but at the same time, I had so much going on this past weekend, just normal everyday things that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll have the game on in the background. I was able to watch the later night. I was able to watch Michigan embarrass themselves against Georgia later in the night. Shaw, I'll tell you all about it. I figure you probably didn't watch it. And you thought we were ignoring you, Shaw? Oh, you were right here. But how about that? I mean, that's bad. So the viewership for both the Cincinnati-Alabama matchup in the afternoon window and the Michigan-Georgia game in the primetime made for the second and third least watched semifinals ever. Alabama and Cincinnati. That was actually the better game of the two, and that wasn't even a good game still, but there was a lot of intrigue about it's the David versus Goliath type deal. Could David, I mean, who knows? The bottom line is I thought that would be enough. People always say this too. Cincinnati is good for the playoff because that's what people watch March Madness for. They love the underdog. I'm like, they love the underdog in the first couple rounds because there's more teams, and at the same time you're getting a mix of your upsets, but you're also getting your traditional powers winning and advancing, setting up some bigger matchups later on. I'm not blaming Cincinnati for the low rating because they had Georgia and Michigan in the primetime slot, and that was the third least watched game of all time. And I don't think it's any of these schools' fault in particular. I still think it's a lot of things. I do think it's one of them is, yes, a smaller market in Cincinnati's in there, but you also have Alabama. That's not a humongous, ginormous market to begin. You know what I mean? Let's just be real. But people are tired of watching the same team dominate every year with Alabama. And then you add the fact that they're going up against the little guy in Cincinnati. It's like, well, I don't need to watch that. I might watch a little bit of it, but I'm not going to stay tuned all night. Then Georgia and Michigan. I thought that was the better of the two games, even before it kicked off. I thought that would be the one to watch. Blowouts. We need to stop pretending that expanding the playoff, and Nick Saban brought up a good point, that why would expanding the playoff get rid of blowouts? It's just it could potentially add more blowouts. I mean, it's a crapshoot. I don't think you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone had anticipated that Georgia, Michigan was going to turn into what it did. So at the end of the day, I don't think that's it. Playing on New Year's is the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you move those two games, even with the same results and the same pace of play, if you move it to New Year's Day, I still think it's higher rate. I still think they could potentially be low, but they're much higher. They're going to be much higher ratings because you have more people watching, more people are home on New Year's Day as opposed to New Year's Eve. But no, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Is it only because it's New Year's Eve? What other contributing factors do you think played a role in both the semifinals, Kev? The Alabama-Cincinnati, I would love to know what the least watched one of all time was, but Cincinnati-Alabama was the second least watched semifinal ever, and then Michigan and Georgia was the third least watched semifinal matchup ever. Yes, it's New Year's Eve, but what other contributing factors could play a role there?
I think it's everything. I think it's all three of those, what you mentioned. The size of the market, I think people didn't think UC stood a chance at all, so they weren't going to watch it. Well, Bama's going to win anyway. Plus, it came on at 3:30 on New Year's Eve. Now, we were off because, we took vacation, but not everybody was off on that day. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people still had to work that day, and it's New Year's Eve, everything like that. I believe in the near future, ESPN or whoever the rights holders of the college football playoff is going to wisen up and say, we need to split this up. If we're going to have a game on New Year's Eve, we're going to put it in prime time, like a la 8 o'clock, and then we'll put the other semifinal in 8 o'clock on New Year's Day to kind of break it up. Like you spent all this money to have this, and then you dump it on a Friday, which just so happens to be New Year's Eve. We talked about this before where there's Super Bowl Sunday. We know exactly what day it's going to be on. When you have a product that's constantly on New Year's Eve could be on a Wednesday, it could be on a Thursday, it could be on a Sunday. It just bounces around. If you try to at least say like, all right, we're going to have it on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, we're going to split them up and have these individual properties, and we're going to market the heck out of it so you know exactly when it's going to be on. I know some people didn't even know the game was coming on at 3:30. Some people were questioning why it was on at 3:30. Like, yo, I don't get off work until 4. And by the time they got home, it was 20 to 3.
Keep in mind, I knew it was at 3:30. It wasn't until Saturday at 3:30. I'm like, wait a minute. The biggest games of the year are built for a 3:30 kickoff on a random New Year's Eve of all days. It just didn't feel right. And
there's so much competition on New Year's Eve. I mean, I know it's COVID and everything like that, but shoot,
check Miley Cyrus, checking her thing on one of the 85 different New Year's Eve shows that go on. I mean, my goodness.
Check your timeline, man. There were still New Year's Eve parties going on everywhere, and a lot of people weren't tuned into it. But you know what did do crazy numbers? The Rose Bowl. Because the Rose Bowl is at the exact same time every day. I mean, every year. It's at 5 o'clock every single New Year's Day. And obviously, Ohio State being in it helped out a ton. It's a big name program that everybody loves.
Turning in for the Utes.
People love it or they hate it. But they got to come up with a better scenario, because this college football playoff, the games have bounced around time-wise, so they got to figure it out.
Yeah, so it's interesting, though, because 16 point, and so Shaw, you were right. Shaw, where did Shaw go? Shaw, I know you're here somewhere. Hold on. You brought up a point of, okay. So Shaw says, that being said, they still had 15.5 million plus. I think everyone is freaking out over nothing. Don't say they're freaking out over nothing. That's a thing. Thanks a lot, Shaw. Of course, the 1 year your team makes it, you're the third least watched game of all time. Congratulations. No, it is. I don't think anyone's making I think it is a big deal. When how much money is spent on these things?
Right.
I know 15 or 6. So they ended up, Shaw, to your point though, Shaw, they did get 16.6 million that watched the Crimson Tide beat the Bearcats. More people actually watched your game, the Michigan game. 17.2 million watched that. So yes, to Shaw's point, I get it. It's still a lot of people watching, but I promise you, that's not what was paid for.
Right.
They paid for a bigger number than that. So I know, like, I'm not going to put up with, well, you know, they still had 16 million people watch. Yeah, but you're paying for that 20. You're supposed to be up in that 20 range, 20 plus range. And you could say, well, maybe that's not realistic. And well, not when you put it on New Year's Eve.
Mm-mm.
I'm not blaming Michigan, Sean. I'm not blaming Cincinnati even. I think that does, you know what I mean? Michigan, I don't think that was a problem. Cincinnati, yeah, a bigger brand could have, I'm not saying better team, but a bigger brand could have helped. I mean, if Ohio State gets that 4 seed and they're facing number 1 Alabama at 3:30, I think we're talking in the 20s at that point, right?
Yeah.
So the least watched semifinal ever. So if you're just joining us, Justin Kinner, Kevin Nash with you here. Good evening. Apparently this playoff has been two of the least viewed games of all time. Alabama Cincinnati was the second least watched game of all time in the semifinals, and Michigan Georgia was the third least watched game of all time. The least watched semifinal ever, Kev, was back in 2015 when Clemson knocked off Oklahoma.
Really?
7-17 in the Orange Bowl.
I would have figured it would have been Bama, Washington.
Yeah. Because who was Washington's quarterback at that time? Not that it matters, but it's driving me nuts. It's okay. I should have asked you that, put you on the spot, but there's that. But either way,
his name was it Jake? Give me a minute. I'll Google it.
So, and here's this, Shaw. How about this? Georgia's win over Michigan in primetime on New Year's Eve. They did average 17 million viewers, Kev, but it is still, of the primetime semifinal games, it's the least viewed semifinal, whatever you want to call it, the primetime game, the night game. It's the least viewed night primetime game in college football playoff history. Not Michigan or Georgia's fault. And to Shaw's point, the blowout didn't help, but most of these playoff games are blowouts. That's the thing. But it's New Year's Eve. It's not Michigan. It's not Georgia. Michigan, Georgia was a hell of a matchup. I was jacked for that. I was more jacked for that than Alabama, Cincinnati, because the Alabama, Cincinnati matchup, to me, it had all the elements of, well, it's going to be cool to tune in, watch the kickoff, see Cincinnati, Alabama go for a possession or two, and then reality kicks in. And it was a little tighter than that, give Cincinnati credit. But ultimately, like, even that didn't have a big game feel. Do you think
Jake Browning? Jake Browning was Washington's quarterback.
Jake Locke. Tommy Pennington says Jake Locke. Is it Jake Browning or Jake Locke?
Jake Browning.
Come on, Tommy. I know you're a Bengals fan. You could do better than that. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Locke was the first round pick way back in the day.
So
that went to the Titans.
Lamar Shelley on Facebook says that the semifinal should be 2 weeks after selection. That's what I've been saying from the beginning. To your point, Kev, yes, New Year's, whatever, but like I don't want the Rose Bowl on the same day as the playoffs, because the Rose Bowl is trying to stand out and saying, hey, we matter. Even though we're not a playoff game, we matter. And
they swing their weight around, and they're the ones that always get the good rating.
Yeah, and
the Sugar Bowl gets the good rating because the Sugar Bowl has their time locked in for 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So those games always do good numbers because they're on New Year's Day.
Yeah,
like
but
they like say like, oh, yeah, we'll be a part of the playoff, but our time slot is never going to change. So kudos to whoever the committee is that is a part of the Rose Bowl, because their game, no matter who's in their game, obviously it helped out a ton having Ohio State in there, but their game does perfectly fine. And that's, to be perfectly honest, it's pretty embarrassing for the network to have a meaningless bowl game do better than the bowl games that actually matter.
All right, 518-1410, 518-1410. But yeah, like I I think that any New Year's Eve is just a terrible time slot,
Yes,
regardless,
absolutely.
no matter what
Absolutely.
time. I don't care
No
if
doubt
it's
about
noon, 3, not at night. I don't care. In fact, you would think at night it becomes even more, you could argue maybe moving it earlier in the day on New Year's Eve. Only because, well, it still doesn't matter. 3:30 is technically earlier in the day, but you could do a noon into 3:30, and then people still get to go out for New Year's Eve. Just stay away from New Year's Eve. How about that?
Exactly.
But like Lamar said, that he would love to see it 2 weeks after Selection Sunday. That's always been my pitch, because you had Selection Sunday usually like on the 3rd, 4th, or 5th in that range on December. You don't play until New Year's Eve. You have 3 or 4 weeks off. That's not necessary, because I also feel like the playoff got here and it's like, oh yeah, I need to be reminded about the storylines. I need to be reminded about Bryce Young. I need to be reminded about Cincinnati and Ryder and the you know what I mean? And the storylines. I think that's a problem. I think it needs to be 2 weeks from Selection Sunday. That way, from the time Selection Sunday happens, you have 2 weeks to build to that semifinal. And then after the semifinals, you have 2 weeks to build to the national championship game. It's just weird to me. You have the three biggest games of the year, 2 semifinals, and national championship. You get a month build up to the 2 semifinals, and you get a 1 week build up to the national championship game. I don't like that. Hell, even the Super Bowl, there's a 2 week gap between the AFC and NFC championship game and when the Super Bowl happens. I think you could do more with the national championship game. You could do more media type stuff. Like they have the media day at the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's stuff being left on the table for the playoff. Everyone's talking about expanding it, add more teams, add this, add that. I just think until you master the 14 playoff, exactly. I don't think you should expand it at all. And I don't think that it hasn't been mastered because it's only 4. I think it hasn't been mastered because they've been bad decisions, because they're chasing the TV media deal, which is important, yes. But I don't think they've put these games in the proper slots, and that's been said for years. But this is just it. Again, the 2nd and 3rd least watched semifinals ever just took place this past Saturday. And Alabama has a hell of a team. All 4 teams, all 4 really good teams, all 4 really cool storylines. I just think it's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. And it's like we talked about yesterday, man, they're under so many restraints. They have to deal with, obviously, the calendar of the schools. And then they have to deal with the bowl game schedules. So the problem is them trying to fit the college football playoff inside the bowl structure. If you take them out of the bowl structure and say, like, all right, just say, for instance, okay, the national championship game, it's not a bowl game. It's in Indianapolis this year. It's going to be at Lucas Stadium, everything like that. What if you take those semifinals to the highest bidder and they're not a part of the bowl system? So you won't be playing in the Sugar Bowl and then advancing. You just say, all right, all those bowl games, y'all fill it with, the teams that aren't in the CFP. We're going to take one semifinal to Dallas. We're going to take the other semifinal to New Orleans, and then the championship is in Minnesota or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So if you take the CFP and remove it from the bowl structure, I think you, as ESPN, you can have more flexibility how you present it to everybody.
Yeah, and last thing on this, I know these topics get recycled a lot when it comes to that because, about the bowl game conversations, all that. I don't think, people are like, well, the bowls mean nothing. That's why they need to expand the playoffs so that the bowls mean something again. I'm like, let's be clear. On the years that no one says, well, since the Rose Bowl is not part of the playoffs this year, I'm not watching it. People aren't watching it because of the bowl game that it is. People are watching it because of the matchup. And the matchup that means something. And outside of the playoff, doesn't mean. So I get annoyed with these takes that people have about that. Like, well, if they expand it, then people will care about the Cotton Bowl. People will care about the Rose Bowl. No, that's not true. I don't think people care about what bowl game these matchups are happening in. In fact, I think if you did a quick poll with people about, okay, what was Alabama, Cincinnati, what bowl was that? If you just quiz people quickly, I don't think they could tell you. I don't think anyone out there is really that concerned about what the bowl is that they're playing in, Kev. I think it's just more about, the Sugar Bowl. What bowl game did Alabama? I don't know why I know, but Alabama, Ohio State, when they played in that 2014, that was the Sugar Bowl. I only remember that because the look of the stadium and all that stuff. But nonetheless, and then adding, even Saban said this, adding more teams to the playoff isn't going to get rid of blowouts. In fact, you could argue it'll just make more. If you're going to argue that 1 versus 4 is a blowout, then what do you think 2 versus 8 is going to be, or 2 versus 12 is going to be, or even 3 versus 12? I don't know. But all right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN radio station. Wright State in action tonight. They have the UIC Flames at the Nutter Center, 7 o'clock the kickoff. This is still got football in mind. 7 o'clock the tip-off. We also have Ohio State basketball right here on 1410 ESPN radio. Ohio State, Indiana tips off at 7 o'clock, 6:15 coverage begins. We have that coming up for you around the corner as well. But Wright State, 4-game win streak, looking to make it 5 tonight. This 4-game win streak includes a win over NC State out of the ACC, so keep that in mind. They're playing really good basketball right now. Did you see the Dayton Flyers last night, Kev? Lost at the buzzer against VCU.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really at the buzzer, but in about 6 seconds remaining in a heartbreaking loss and it's led to a lot of drama too because Anthony Grant never calls out his team. I've never, ever, even knowing information about what's going on behind the scenes and drama, he always takes the blame. He always says, it's on him. He never throws guys under the bus. I don't know how you guys view it, but I view this as a coach throwing his team under the bus. Basically, saying that his team doesn't play hard. His guys don't play hard. And although that might be the truth, it was an interesting way, a dynamic of going about it. Dave Jablonski covers the Flyers, does a great job, tweeted this. Anthony Grant said that he didn't want to get up on his soapbox, but he got up on his soapbox after the game. This was part of a long opening statement in the post-game press conference. Listen to this, Kev. Anthony Grant says, "We don't play hard enough." He says, guys are more interested in, I want to play rather than I want to compete. All right. He goes, he says that more guys are interested in, I want to play rather than I want to compete. I want to win. That mentality right now permeates sports in general. I don't want to get on the soapbox, but it's really, really frustrating. Winning is why competitors compete. That's your focus. That's number one. So whether you're playing 5 minutes or 15 to 20 minutes, there's a way that you approach the game with a level of energy and focus. It's not a pickup game. It's not an AAU game. It's not about whether or not things are going well for you individually. That's Anthony Grant not getting on his soapbox, by the way.
Woo! Tell him, Coach. I ain't got no problem with that.
Yeah,
I got no problem with
the game last night. Yeah, you end the game with 2 timeouts. You don't foul. You just let the guy shoot the ball. You had fouls to give. Anthony Grant makes way too many decisions in late game situations and tight game situations that has cost his team way too many games. He makes way too many coaching mistakes to be saying that my team don't play hard, which, by the way, well, I don't know if anyone's defined him as not playing hard, but he sees things that we don't, obviously. I don't think if this quote's never made by Anthony Grant in the postgame, I don't know if anyone's saying, man, I don't think the Flyers played hard tonight. So clearly, that's what I always find fascinating about coaches. They see things that fans don't. That's why they have to block out the boobs like me and the fans of the world who have opinions because we clearly don't see things the same way they do. But they know. I mean, this sounds like it was a preparation thing for this game. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it was just last night. I think it could have been a preparation thing for the week.
But this was what? This was after a 21-day layoff, right?
Yeah, since December 21st. Remember, they were off. I mean, it was a while.
Right.
Because of COVID.
So this is probably something from practice. Because, I mean...
That's why I said the prep, heading into it. I don't know. It's strange. Penny Hardaway gets blasted. Penny Hardaway calls out his team all the time in the media. Gets blasted for it. Anthony Grant does it. It's great leadership. I have no clue. I don't know what to make of this. I just think when you have a coach that makes a lot of mistakes that he does, calling out your players, saying, well, they don't work hard, they don't play hard, that's kind of strange to me. But I do know Anthony Grant's never done that. So you know how bad things have to be behind the scenes that he finally breaks his silence like that? Like, he doesn't, Kev. I'm very well aware of a lot of issues in previous teams things have happened behind the scenes, and he has never once brought that up or mentioned these things. So that's why I find fascinating about this, really, at the end of the day. Where are you at with coaches calling out teams like that?
I got no problem with this from Coach because a lot of the situation does come from practice. And if he thinks they're not giving their all in practice, it's not going to translate to the game. And yeah, we can talk about coaches making blunders on the game and not calling it timeouts. But the least any player can do is play hard. Like, it's a finite of many games that you're going to play during your college career and finite amount of many games that you're going to play this season. After being off for 21 days and you finally get back on the court, you finally get back in front of your fans to play a game, and you don't give what coach perceived as quality effort. Maybe this is coach trying to push another button because, like you said, things that that go behind the scenes, and he hasn't gone this route before. Maybe he's out of ammo. Maybe this is I got to do something. I got to do something to light the flame under these guys because they're not giving me what we need to win.
Yeah, again, Anthony Grant, we just don't play hard enough. Guys are more interested in I want to play rather than I want to compete and I want to win. That's there's a lot in that. That's one of those when your parents say, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed in you. That's what that is right there. Like, that's going to hit the locker room pretty good. Mm-hmm. And how they respond to it, that's going to be key.
I'm sure practice is going to be fun.
It's just like, but coach, that's your job to get them to play hard. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just a hater. What do I know? 518-1410. We'll be back in a moment.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
34 teams, 19 games, all in 4 days, live from Trenton Arena in Kettering. It's the 2022 Premier Health Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, January 14th through the 17th. Don't miss out on a chance to see some of the best local and national teams and players. Huntington Prep, Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary's, Wayne, Dunbar, Centerville, and more. It's the 2022 Flying to the Hoop High School Basketball Invitational, live from Trent Arena in Kettering. Get your tickets at flyingtothehoop.com/tickets.
All right, listen up, people. Sean Avery here. If you enjoy alcohol, chances are at some point you've been hungover, torn up in the Hurt Locker. Well, here's a little secret. Goodies hangover powder relieves pain fast, helps wake you up, and it tastes good. I'm not kidding around. You got a case of ginfluenza, bourbonitis? No problem. Get Goodies hangover powder. Real medicine for real hangovers.
Goodies Hangover, aspirin and caffeine in powder form. Place on tongue and take with water. Hangover responsibly. Find it at Walmart.
Why does Walgreens offer copays as low as $0 and 90-day refills? Because we care about Medicare, so you don't have to. I mean, do you really care to hear me go on about same-day prescription delivery making your life easier? Or how there's a pharmacy expert available 24/7 and one-click refills? Well, I just did anyways. Fill your Medicare prescriptions with Walgreens and save.
$0 copays apply to Tier 1 generic drugs and select plans with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Restrictions apply. See walgreens.com/Medicare for